Well, welcome, Mech Warriors. Today we have a extra special edition of MWO League's MWO Comp streaming. And that's not it. We're actually talking today about having a discussion, I should say, on how to improve MechWarrior Online. PGI have said very recently, in the last 2 weeks, with Old Man Dayron, or actually no, Bearded Man Dayron, I shouldn't say Old Man, he might come after me if I do pull the piss out of him too hard. Has said that, you know, there is feedback, we're open, development MechWarrior Online is coming again, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a discussion. I have a bunch of panelists here, which you'll see on the Discord. Jay-Z, Nutty Rat, Mr. Bowser, Navid, and Mr. Becklaw is just here so you can hear what's going on as he brought us all together. Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
G'day, you lot, how you going?
Good afternoon.
Doing well.
Good afternoon. We're off to a great start already. I like it. So, as you will see on the left side, we have a little document here. Well, when I say little, it's up to 6 pages already. And maybe this is a good time to hand over to you, Nutty Rat, to give a little bit of a spiel about how all that works and how we've sort of got to this point, I guess.
Absolutely. So first of all, this is, of course, the MWO Gulag. We are a collection of pilots of multiple skill levels and multiple focuses within the game. Our purpose, as Ash said, our the purpose of this is we're trying to get some community feedback, but also discuss what we think should be changing within the game. The way that we're approaching this is we are looking at it as a way of how can we make this game more fun for everyone, not just for one particular one particular segment of the community. I think everybody here in the panel plays the game in multiple ways. We're not just competitive players, we're casual players, we do silly things, we provide assistance at different levels, and we do welcome feedback from all skill levels in the game. From the brand new player that's going through the new player experience all the way to the highly skilled players that know a lot about the game. We do ask that we try to keep everything as civil and informative as possible. Let's look forward. Let's try to build on the request that PGI gave to the community, and we'll try to build a document that provides them a good way forward. Now let's temper some expectations, right? They have asked us for feedback. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything that we give them is going to be implemented. However, we can ensure that we are providing them with, clear guidance and wishes from us, the community, so we have a good way. We have a good way forward. All of us on the panel are going to be, considering the suggestions and feedback in the chat is mainly at the end. I think is what we're going to be doing, Ash. Where we're looking at the end of the document, we'll take in discussion, but we're going to be doing very high level views, so we can't really get into a lot of detail. So I hope
I know Navid wants to, but we're gonna strangle Navid. We're not gonna let him do it today.
Yeah, I promise not to. I promise not to go on a rant.
Yeah. So with that, I hope we're able to make this a productive discussion for everybody, and I hope that everybody finds this useful. And most importantly, I hope the Piranha Games finds this useful, and that we're able to provide some assistance in providing guidance on developing a game that we all love, which is why we're here. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ash, and
that's it. Yep.
Welcome everyone.
Beautiful, man. Great intro. I love it. Like I said, we'll go through everything we have first, which is a very, very broad collection. I have read every Reddit thread, forums, Facebooks. I've listened to all the podcasts lately. I'm sure I've missed stuff, right? There is definitely stuff that I've probably missed. Hell, even on the MWO Comp Discord, we made a new channel and it's had something like 6,000 posts or something. It's got to be ridiculous in the space of 3 days. So I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of reading. But also we need to set the expectation around, well, what isn't going to happen? There's things like battle value, free-for-all, a bunch of stuff that PGI has outlined multiple times is not going to happen. And there's also things because at the end of the day, guys, MechWarrior Online is a FPS. That's it, right? It is a first-person shooter. Battle value will upset balance to no end. It is a tabletop, and it works well. suppose it doesn't work because there was battle value too. But, you know, there is all these things that, whilst they're great in tabletop and those type of mechanics, or in, say, a turn-based thing like Battletech, knockdowns, different RNG items, and things like this, they apply there, and that's great. They have their place, and it is the belief of the collective here, at least with all of us, that, well, a lot of it just isn't going to work. It can't work in MechWarrior Online how people want it to. So we'll cover a bit of that later when we come to it with suggestions. We'll do all those at the end, but please keep that in mind with your with the suggestions when we do get to that point, and when you sort of do see that none of it's going to be here. I mean, I've even seen suggestions like, you know, there should be 2 different levels of balance for higher skill players and lower, like different mechanics for them. Like, you're just introducing way too much complexity into what I would say is quite possibly one of the most complex games out there. It truly is. There's so many mechanical things, how the game works in the deep dive end, you know, and most of the guys here have probably done similar to me, well, probably a bit more than anyone else, but hundreds of hours in private lobbies just to work these things out. How does it work? What does it do? I want to know. And you can only sometimes do that by dropping repeatedly 100 times in 3 hours in private lobbies just to test out a single value. So, and most of us have done it. I know Jay-Z's also trained lots of new players. I have, Bowser has, well, actually, to be honest, all of us have at various points. Through MechWarrior careers, you know, I've trained units. Actually, Nutty's unit, the comp here last year or the year before.
Yep.
You know, Jay-Z did the same thing. Again, we've all done it. We've seen it from all ends of the scale. So again, this is not just the high level comp players influencing the game or controlling it or anything like that. Which hopefully you guys will all see during the document. So I just want to keep a quick eye on Twitch chat here. Well, let's get started.
You put me on the panel, and I'm certainly, you know, as far from a skill perspective, I can't hold a candle to anybody else here in the panel. But I think that's the point, right? Is it's not just about the 1%. It is about you know people of all skill levels and bringing them in. Don't forget 821 mech variants. Just need to keep that number in mind. 821.
Wow. All right. So let's get started. This is probably the hottest one at the moment. Skill tree. Firstly, you know, I've seen a lot of, do we get rid of it? Don't we get rid of it? I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know what work is involved in it. I would just think that, well, if you remove the skill tree, everyone's going to have to click all the nodes in the old system all over again. So that was the first problem with the skill tree in the first place was, well, you have to click all these nodes, and everyone really honestly cracked the shits at it. So if you go back to the old system, they're going to have to do it all over again. So there is a big risk there of, well, we're going to end up in the same place, right? So anyway, I've left the skill tree in here for now. There is definitely a remove it part of the community. I mean, I don't care either way. I don't know how you guys here feel about it. I'm 50-50. I don't care which way it goes. Go back to the old system or adopt something like this, which is skill tree. There are too many nodes, 91 nodes with nodes that supply 0.7% increases. The player cannot fill them. Players need to feel that they have achieved something. Rewarding the player has a huge impact on fun, experience, and enjoyment. And reducing the nodes here increases the feeling of that achievement. As you alter a mech, you click a node, you're like, oh wow, I can feel that straight away. Like 0.7%, you don't feel that. You know, maybe 4 or 5%, you can start to notice that after a couple of games. I would say at the bare minimum, a minimum of 50% reduction in the nodes and skills. And a lot of the time, maybe vary the nodes up a little bit. 90% of the nodes, the skill trees these days that I see across the majority of the community, honestly, are the same. It's very, very, I guess, linear. There's not a lot of actual customization in it. And the C-build component, I feel, well, when I say I'm just reading off the document here. The C-build component is super excessive to unlock nodes, and it needs to be removed. And the XP only part of it, and it kind of ties into the second point, so we'll come back and sort of quickly discuss it all at the moment, is the grind, the skill tree grind. I know, PJ, I've done some work in there. I think it was about 25% reduction or increase to XP and stuff, but it needs to come down 30, 40%. more minimum. The average player takes around about 110 matches. And these are talking about new players here, not high skilled guys that are cranking 5 or 10 nodes a game sometimes. It can take you 110 matches to skill out 91 nodes. You change your build, you've now got 120 nodes. That could be 150 matches. Now, for a casual player, 150 matches, I think that is excessive to skill out one mech. And that also ties into mech packs. Why would you buy a mech pack of 5 mechs if it's going to take you 500 games, which honestly could be 5 months for the casual guy? 5 months. That's massive. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, like I think the skill tree is a big one, but it's not a low-hanging fruit. It does take a bit of time to redesign things, and so it's definitely something I think that won't be in the first phase of redevelopment, but it's something to look at. I think the community has had the big shock of it when it launched in 2017. It did have a lot of shock, and a lot of players did leave the game over it, or significantly reduce the hours they were playing the game per week from it. So we've had that shock. And so while it may not be the first thing we look at, because again, while it is tedious and quite complex, to change it would be another shock. So we've just got to be very careful with what we do with this. And I think skill tree, simplifying it, making it a lot more accessible is a good thing. There's plenty of ideas for that, but I don't think it's the lowest hanging fruit available.
It's not simple. This is the big one. I mean, there's a lot of, like we'll see later on, a lot of this stuff is really easy in terms of very quick wins, but this is a massive one. I also feel like it's, well, not just me, it's what I read, the most common thing I think that has actually been brought up the most consistently is this section right here. This is the big one. One of the very big ones. There's multiple big ones, but this is definitely up there.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead, Navid. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree on the skill tree. Like, it can get improved, like be improved in like a lot of ways. I mean, that's one of the things. One of my concerns was that, all right, so any change to that skill tree would require a refund of points to the entire community, and like as Jay said, it created a shock first. But it's certainly not a low hanging fruit, but it's one of the big changes that that needs to happen. That it's not something. I mean, we cannot ignore it since it's a big part of like kind of aspect of the game affecting the mech's performance. The things that I think they can improve upon, reducing the number of nodes and making it less like a puzzle. Right now, for example, because of the way this tree basically is designed, the players have already much on their plate to learn about the gameplay mechanics, and then they go into mastering a mech, and they are basically confronted with this like maze, and like the complexity can be reduced. For example, like 5 range nodes completely independent on their own, like make it like a pie chart, like they can just firepower, mobility, like jump jets and mobility are the same, like why are they in different things, like that sort of thing. Like it certainly needs to happen at some time, but we can basically go along with other aspects and leave it as is, and then when other things reach to a certain point, we can get back to the skill tree. But definitely, that I think that's the most important thing
I was even going to
regarding
say,
next.
I've seen him playing the last week or so. Solahama's original suggestion, coming back to something like that, a massively condensed, reduce the grind, increase the reward and engagement for the new players. I mean, yeah, existing old players, people like me that have got a billion C-bills, blah, blah, blah. Like Jay said, we've dealt with that impact. You know, we've already had it.
Yeah.
We've been hit with it.
It's 3 years ago.
To me, it doesn't make any
It's 3
difference now.
years.
Honestly, to me, it doesn't make that much difference if it gets changed. Will it make new difference to newer or more casual players? Hell yes. You want them to stick around.
Oh,
Yeah.
big time! Because when you watch the, I sneak into play new streamers that are playing the game, and you see them kind of looking at the skill tree, and they're experimenting in the mech lab, so they're starting from one build, moving to the next, to the next, to the next. It's such an expensive process for them that I see them that, like, I don't I kind of give up, or I'm going to wait until I have like all this XP and then dump it in, but then they decide to change their mind and switch to a different mech build on it, or somebody says, hey, that's actually, here's the actual meta build for, say, like the Evan Jag, right? And they were building some kind of DACA LRM thing, but they switched over to Laser Vomit. Now they have to completely revamp their skill tree, right? So there is something to say from the new player perspective of, what is this giant thing that I'm looking at, and how do I even navigate it? And I don't know, we're going to talk about new player experience later on, but this is one of those things that becomes a huge mystery to anybody that's getting into the game.
Yep, spot on, man. That'll do for that one, I think. Yeah.
I think so.
All right. And now we've got a couple of quick ones actually to sort of run through pretty easily here. Time of day I've seen mentioned a few times actually. The lobbies have a setting to control the time of day, and on a number of maps, the time of day change can nuke FPS anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 seconds in a match, and it's excruciatingly painful as a player. I've just seen this mentioned a few times, so I'll put it in there. Just the map is the time of day, is the time of day. Just leave it. Don't have it, especially River City, I think is one of the worst. Just get rid of it. Like, it just fixes the performance immediately. And, it actually would change the maps up a little bit too. Like, if it's always dark or nighttime or dawn or whatever, it actually can change the map up a little bit too. So, anything for that one? Or
yeah, I agree.
Pretty
It's an easy one.
I think that's fairly self-explanatory. There's no real reason to have dynamic time of day on, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think any time of day would change like in 10 minutes like that.
Nah, most games don't even last long enough anyway, right? So
it's intended to be more, I guess immersive, right? But the point is, if you're just losing FPS and you're losing game performance, right, then it becomes, I think, not worth it. Unless that can somehow be fixed, but
the opposite.
That's a little bit of a variable.
Yeah,
it's
it is
jarring.
almost the opposite.
It's jarring. It takes you out of immersion.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
like just a.
Yeah, just think about the old MechWarrior titles, right? You jump in and it'd be a night mission. It was night the entire time for 15 minutes, and it didn't change 3 seasons in one game. I mean, that's what it does in Melbourne. Legitimately, 3 seasons. It could rain and I could get sunburned in about 3 minutes of walking outside the door here in my house. But in a video game, maybe not.
Yeah. Also, just a small comment on night missions. I would say that in MechWarrior Online, night vision and heat vision, they don't really work for the environment that they are designed for. And for example, let's say, all right, so you want us to have a night mission experience, right? And basically, the single most important feature or vision does not work for basically that environment past 400 meters. Or heat vision on some of the maps, on some of the maps that have backdrops of actual mesh and terrain, they work. You can just see black dots from 1,000 meters away. But on some maps, it's just useless. And the prime example of that is River City and Crimson Strait, those urban maps. And I think that's something that can be looked into, because those vision modes in other games that people are familiar with, night vision does not cut away at 400 meters.
Yep. I've just seen Bandit say heat vision on Tourmaline. It's like, oh yeah,
The hot map,
2,000 meters away, man. You can see the dude at the other side of the map. It's crazy. On one map, it's insane. One map it works too good.
Rift. Yeah, all the hot maps are like that.
Yeah. I mean, again, that definitely ain't the new player experience, but even when you try to use these features as sort of more of a newer play, hang on, why doesn't it work? Why is night vision not working on a night map? Again, just an improvement thing. I think the next one here we got was moving along. Terratherma Classic, add it back in. All the other maps are back. Let's go. Easy free content. Let's go back to the Thunderdome. Back to the middle to the all-in crazy brawl. It's a cheap win. I think adding it in is cheap.
I don't think you lose anything by putting it back in. So much like the old classic maps.
And if people don't want it, they don't have to vote for it on the voting screen.
Right. No, but that's what I saved my 14 times up for, to go to the Thunderdome. Save that up.
I would do it. I'll do it.
I do it all the time. I do it all the time. It's great.
Yeah.
Disconnect penalty. This is a massive one. I've seen this mentioned a lot. Remove the 2-minute requirement for reconnection to a match before you incur a disconnect penalty, which is the same as the team damage penalty. The MWO client, it takes longer than 2 minutes after a crash to load in, and then it can take anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds then to load back into the match, and then you've been slapped with a penalty. New or old player, you're just left going, what just happened? Why am I getting penalized for the game crashing? I think removing this is a good one. Even myself on an NVMe drive, I can't even get back into a game in 2 minutes. It's actually impossible. So,
well, I'm an Aussie with 730 max. I got zero chance.
it's not
And
happening.
the thing is that here's the thing on principle. If you try to reconnect, you've done everything you can.
Yep.
So why punish the people who try to reconnect? If you know you're going to get penalized and get nothing for it, you're just going to play a new match and leave that team down a mech. If you know there's no penalty, you'll try to reconnect and try to help your team. The current penalty system disincentivizes helping the team that you crashed or disconnected from.
Well, I've just seen punish intentional disconnects. I mean, it does punish them in some ways, but how often do you see them?
No. I think it's okay to like if it's intentional. By saying if you reconnect, there should be no penalty.
Yeah,
That's
you
the same.
reconnect. The reconnection, the penalty for reconnection is
Yes.
the window needs to be adjusted. Maybe make
window
it 4
needs to
minutes.
be if you reconnect by the end of the match,
Yep.
then you're fine.
Yep.
Because no player who intentionally disconnects, why would they reconnect unless they're actually trying to play the game?
Yeah, if you reconnect, mate, the penalty is off the cards. Even if it takes 4 minutes, it's off. It doesn't apply. If you disconnect and you try to rejoin another match immediately, oh hey, that's on the cards. That's totally fair. I think that's absolutely needed. Probably just good point there, Danae. I didn't clarify that.
Just another
Reconnection.
comment on this topic is that even like the timer is a big one. Although there's another thing that when you disconnect a crash from a match, and if the match ends before you can connect, for example, like you're already up on kills, like there are 2 enemy mechs running around, and you're about to kill them, and then boom, the game crashes.
Yep.
And the game ends before you can join, and you will get penalized anyway, and there would be no timer. So there should be another mechanic for that because of the multiple level of like penalties that are in. For example, let's say you're playing in a match, you've dropped a strike like in a place that you shouldn't have, and you've already racked up like 2 minutes of penalty, and suddenly something like this happens, and boom, your penalty goes up to 5 minutes, and you're just sitting there. So I think it should be easy to basically see.
I think it needs
if
a
a player-
rework, right? The point is PGI it needs to be a rework here of this mechanic. It's just not intuitive. And then, friendly strikes, they're not generally on purpose, right? It just happens.
Yeah.
It happens to everybody all the time. Or for team damage, you accidentally clip a guy with a laser, you do, 15 damage to him and he runs across your fire or whatever, right? And you incur a team penalty and you get the double whammy 5 minutes, see you later. Like, that's just, that is ridiculously frustrating.
Yeah, and you can imagine if you're streaming with your group of friends, like 10 people, and then someone suddenly like gets hit with this penalty, and well, he has to like sit out. It doesn't feel good.
Okay, Mech Lab heat management. This one came up the other night. I was helping Fury actually while she was streaming and stuff, and the Mech Lab heat management, that number specifically, extremely misleading. Just because it says it has 1.7 heat management doesn't mean it's actually really managing its heat, because it's got no heat sinks potentially. So I think that at least maybe some of the Mech Lab information could be a little bit better. Probably a little bit more than heat management, but
there's like another one to that too, and that's when you put like laser AMS on a mech, and it tanks your heat rating, but it does not actually really that accurate. It's only accurate if the laser AMS is firing 100% of the time, which unless you're on like a Polar Highlands drop or something like that, that's almost never the case.
Like MechNav Alpha, Kill to Bits site, it calculates heat accurately. It tells you accurately what's going on. Again, a community created tool here could actually be maybe employed by PGI or somehow use the numbers and the formulas there. And again, that just removes a lot of the confusion from a lot of players about, well, am I or am I not actually heat management or managed my heat correctly? Yeah, laser AMS, a massive one. Like it, you put 2 laser AMS on, it drops, but you can just turn it off, right? And then but you have to remove the piece of equipment off the mech to adjust the number and put it back on again. Like it's not very intuitive.
It's also just like the scale. Like 2 is heat neutral apparently, and 1 is 50% of that or something. Like, why is a scale of 1 to 2 or 0 to 2? What's the scale even mean? Whereas MechDB system is percentage based, and it's a lot more clear what's going on. So I think even just the scale alone, regardless of how accurate it is, the scale is also a poor scale and is not intuitive.
Yeah, and I'm not sure even if people know, like, it's an arbitrary formula for that heat management in Macro Online. It's so unknown. Like, I know the exact formula, but it's irrelevant to what the mech like actually performs. I think MechDB, as Jay mentioned, like it's basically the amount of heat you generate per second versus the amount of heat you dissipate per second. It's something understandable. It's something touchable for people to understand. It's simple. Yeah,
that's what it is. It just needs to be simple. You know.
So I've got MechDB open right now with a Stalker build, and it's got firepower, heat efficiency in percent. It's got alpha coefficient, which is weak and alpha. It's got your heat capacity. Heat capacity is really helpful to know.
Very important.
Alpha heat and heat dissipation, and it's all there in this little square on the left.
You can pretty much grab that,
really good.
Stick it into MechWarrior Online, and be done, and use the same formulas, and be like, hey, this is a 1,000% improvement. Super easy. I think it's a pretty easy win, really. I mean,
Simple,
it's a UI
clear.
change, but that's for PGI to decide, I guess.
Yeah.
And a lot of these are, what is easy and what isn't, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, as well. So next one, Mwo Wiki. Wiki, great idea. I was like, oh wow, finally we get a way to help the community and document a lot of this stuff that we all, like a lot of the higher school players have sort of scienced out, or the higher school guys, but the guys that want to know have done the science, and then the editing was restricted to a small group, and one of them is now banned. So that kind of is a little bit of a problem. Open it up, same as like Wikipedia. Open the MWO Wiki up and have some, approved editors, all this sort of stuff. People that know what's going on. It could be an amazing engagement tool to help the new player experience. It would just, I can just not. I use wikis all the time for new games that I'm playing. Like, how does this mechanic work? What does it do? If you want to know the information, you can find it. MWO does not have this. It does not exist anywhere. So. I think that's one's a self-explanatory one for me. I don't know about you guys, but
yes, I mean, let's I think that how many times people post on Reddit on the forums that how does NARC work?
Yeah,
like if I take tag work? if I take this node, will it affect my lock-on time? Will it affect my this? Will it affect? There's no info at all. And Wiki, I think, is very helpful in clarifying some of those, in bringing some examples that, all right, if you do this, do that, that's the effect, and that kind of like puts an image on everyone's mind. Is like, yes, that's
insane. I cannot think of one downside to having this. There is only pure utter benefits, and you know what? For the most part, PGI doesn't have to do much at all. Just open it up to the community. That's it. Like, honestly, just open up, have pick a number, a dozen approved editors that know what's going on, approve or reject. That's it.
So I would like to add, sorry to interrupt you, that there was a wiki, if anybody remembers here, back in the past, there actually was, that we've Kanajashi and multiple other people in that vein set it up, but it was not maintained and the information was not accurate or relevant. So that would be a big thing that needs to be, I guess, fact checked, for lack of a better word, is accurate and relevant information.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, some of the wiki stuff when the PGI one came out, some of the information when it was launched was already out of date. And again, I mean, it took a year to get to that point. So of course, a few patches down the track, not maintained. Again, I just think that that's a super quick, easy win.
It is. It's something you can point the community at ultimately, right?
Yep.
And huge benefit from the the new player side, from the casual player side of you get people that ask questions all the time about, say, like like ECM versus BAP versus targeting computer, where what do they do? I have no idea, kind of thing, right? And there ends up certainly being some confusion, but yeah, so casual or competitive, that's going to be a huge, a really good idea to have.
Yep. Next one, timestamps. I've seen this come up a few times as well, actually. Add into the Mech Lab and the frontal UI timestamps for the chats. So maybe you're in a faction play match or you're doing some comp drops or whatever. Even if you step away from your computer for 30 minutes, you don't know what time now there's like 7 or 8 different chat channels within the in-game UI, which is another issue itself. We'll come to that later. But there's no timestamps on anything, so you don't know when they were sent. Was it 15 minutes ago? Was it an hour ago? I think that's just a pretty easy quality of life change or an update. And I'm sure the timestamps are recorded in the server, just needs to be put at the front end. That's it. Quick one again. Again, these are just ideas too, right?
Oh yeah.
So now
simple quality of life changes, right?
Oh, okay. We're up to a spicy one now, guys. Torso heat spike. Remove it. It is not new player friendly. It is not explained anywhere how it works, and it is a flat up bad mechanic. I have seen so many comments about this. Read it. I think it was in a podcast as well. I don't think I need to say much more on it. Like, it is just infuriating.
Yes.
It's infuriating.
I mean, it's
really
not even based on physics. It's like
No,
no, it's not.
It's not even based on physics.
Yeah.
And I've seen like a lot of posts that that's how physics. No, it's not how physics works. And
The chat's going
it's-
crazy, by the way. Everyone's like, get rid of it.
Yeah. Yes, of course. I mean, it's like I can just sit here and talk about how many negative effects it has, like on how you play the game. Just get rid of it. Like, if you want, I can go into details, but yeah,
don't
just
need
get
it.
rid of it.
We all know. I
Okay,
think everyone
no,
understands. Just
Yep.
Yeah, nuts.
there's already enough disadvantage of mobility.
I would like.
and-
Sorry, I would like to just say one thing about it is I don't agree that it's a good balancing mechanic. However, if everybody remembers, before they put it in, LFEs were the dominant engine choice. You never saw standard engines, and XLs were made irrelevant because why would you take an XL when you still have tonnage savings? And you don't
No.
have any side
Just the heat spike.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm proposing the heat spike is actually one of perhaps the major balancing factors behind LFE engines, regardless if people want to hear that or not. So perhaps you'd have to do something else because, in my opinion, I like the fact that you can pick a standard engine for durability. A light is still somewhere in the middle, and there are XL builds that see relevance nowadays. Like I said, maybe back 2-3 years ago, LFE engines were the only choice you ever saw people take. So maybe there'd have to be some sort of other way to balance it.
Well,
I
the way
agree.
see it-
Torso heat spike is a bad way to balance it, but I think there might need to be something else to balance it with.
Yeah, so the way I see that one is when you lose a side torso, your mobility is worse and your heat dissipation is crippling. So I think the dissipation. So we're talking about the heat capacity spike because it chops your capacity, so your existing heat level can get shot out into the sky. But if you're talking about just the capacity, remove that component, and only lose the capacity worth of your 2 heat sinks, whatever it is that you lose. But instead that the mobility and dissipation effects could be tuned as needed to, like, I agree with Bowser though. It is true that a stand engine, even for clan battle mechs, is viable. Like, a lot of people don't realize this. You can't on a clan battle mech, you are allowed to run a standard engine.
Yep.
Most people don't realize this, but it's actually viable for what Bowser just mentioned. And so yeah, having mobility issues and dissipation issues is a good balancing mechanic.
This will
without
probably
the
be one of those situations where you throw some of that, and I get why it's there, some of that sort of tabletop mechanic and law value sort of behind it a little bit. You kind of just move it aside for the purposes of better balance. So anything else? Oh, I think that was a good one.
Yeah, 100% agree. But of course, you need to tune those other penalties that are manageable, that make sense.
Okay, cool. I'll just note that down there as well. And this document, by the way, guys, will be available later. PDF. I'll send it to Dayron after I format it in a day or two because it's not. I know the formatting's not very good. Spelling's all over the joint. This is just me banging it out in between working and doing other things, so it just appears bit by bit. The next one is command wheel target spotted. I know the purposes behind the whole command wheel and information warfare from a few years ago kind of didn't really eventuate, and not. It's basically free map hack, is how I look at it. It's players constantly saying, how did you know I was there? You're hacking. You knew I was coming around the corner before you even saw me. It's like, well, yeah, you've been target spotted and marked on the map for nearly 10 seconds. Like, a lot of the suggestions so far I've seen is don't necessarily get rid of it, but just lower its duration. So...
I would argue it should be getting rid of entirely. A free map
I would
hack
say
is
get
dumb.
rid of it too, but...
I think it's very, very dumb.
Here's the thing. Like, the way spotting works in most popular games is that when you spot a target, a hollow or kind of a pale marker appears like where you spot the target.
Yeah.
And,
on the map.
And basically, as long as there's a radar contact to the target, that pale like marker stays with the target. As long as the target breaks radar contact, the marker stays where it was the last time the target was visible. And if the target comes into radar contact again, it just like fades away, or
if you could just mark it on the map rather than the mech itself, I'm actually alright with it staying as is.
I'm seeing that
fine.
suggestion in chat. It's just mark the map position on the map where the mech was rather than the mech. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I think that's the way to do it.
And if they can't do it, like, again, this might come back to a mechanic thing, right? If it can't be done easily, then at the least just halve the time. I mean, so at least you're getting some information. Because again, you don't want to remove that. And again, this comes back to...
I think it can be done. Because you have the move here command. You can aim a terrain and go, move here, or flank right. You know what I mean?
It
so
can
they
be
do have map positions available.
It's a question of how, again, we've got to also remember that what is quick, what is easy, what can be done, and all these sort of things. There's a lot of stuff in this document, and there's more, I'm sure, that PGI are looking at too. So if it's, well, okay, this is going to take us 5 days to do, this is going to take us a half an hour kind of thing, well, we go with the half an hour option, not the 5-day one, right? So,
I mean, yeah.
There is a lot of that to come later, for sure.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy, but it's up to them. And also, there's another thing regarding the command wheel. Like, I don't know if anyone here started the match while they're in company command. Like, there are like a million things on that command wheel.
Hate that.
Like you won't even bother. Like, there's a thing like you see before the matches. It's like turn your override on. And then this is something you need to remember. Oh, just resign command, because otherwise you can't be.
I actually do that a lot. I can take command, mark the map, and remove it because there's too many buttons. Then, like,
I
like it.
Like there's so many
you need
things.
a secondary wheel.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many.
No more wheels. No more wheels. No. We don't need 17 wheels.
Like,
to click through all the menus. Nah.
Yeah, you need to simplify it. Like, for example, move command is very useful. Like, give that to the commander. Like, the commander does not need to say to the team that flank here, cover here, defend here. No. The commander says move there.
Yep.
They're all human. They can understand, and basically they know what they need to do. Those are simplify it to more important things rather than just cluttering the screen. And it's even hard to point your mouse to something.
I'll put it in there. So I'll just put commander wheel simplifications, right? I think that's a good one to move on from that. Private lobbies, quality of life fix. Oh man, this is one of my big ones for me as a Compcaster. I'll tell you what. The function to assign and transfer the lobby leader to another player. There is not much I'm going to ask for or push for, but I'll tell you what, this is one of the most, for me at least, the way that I deal with and all the comp stuff that I do. It is, and for any unit actually that even just does private lobbies for fun, this is just I don't know. It speaks for itself.
Caster quality of life. Put grid squares on the map.
Just small stuff, dude. Small stuff, man.
Oh, yes.
Stuff. Like, look, I can live with not having that if you could just a lobby leader, an ability to tag the lobby leader and change it. I mean, you can do it when you're outside the lobby. You can change the group leader, shifting the whole crown thing, which is in itself is a bit clunky, but whatever. but you can't do it once you get into the lobby. Like, there's no way to do it. So, and look, a lot of teams, it's not just for competitive play. A lot of units and stuff just fart around in lobbies all night. You know, they have a unit night and they all get on, but there's no way to control it. Like, once you get in there, sometimes if the one guy crashes or whatever, people have to log in and out. And anyway, small bugbear, but a big improvement.
More spec slots.
Yeah. Oh yes, more spectator slots. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
More spectator slots. I'll mark that one down. That
I think
actually
they
is pretty
said
cool.
3 or 4 is possible. So, but yeah,
Well, I've had it in the
limitation
past.
on that.
It's existed in the past. I think 3 or 4. So, next one. Oh yay! Okay, now we're getting into some juicy stuff. Now, I've seen this brought up a hell of a lot again. 8v8s. This is a very small point in the document, but maybe not a small discussion. 8v8 group queue, solo opt into the group queue, you know, and just I have 2 queues. Bring 2 queues back. There's been a lot of support for the merged queue, which I will refer to as soup queue from the herein. A little bit of a mixed soup of sorts. But there was a lot of units, and again, this is not a high skill thing or low skill or, you know, regular casual player. A lot of people just said, hey, why can't we just bring 8v8 group queue back? It was great, it was hopping, and allow solo players that want to opt into it, they can, and they can also opt into solo queue at the same time, rather than have 4-man groups now, honestly, just destroying the solo player experience. I mean, look, it doesn't always happen, but it is a 4-man team.
If you're in a good 4-man group, you win every single game.
And you don't even have to be
like a decent 4-man group.
Yeah, you just have to
and
be
there's
decent.
no amount of tonnage or anything that will fix that for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe the closest thing is like a 1-1-1-1 restriction, but even then that can be gamed and abused by people who know what they're doing. So,
yeah.
So maybe what we can do is we can, you know, informally pull the chat right now, because one of the I know one of the reasons why Piranha Games didn't do it is because they were concerned that there wasn't going to be enough population of, you know, solo people that would opt into group queue in order to make it viable. So for the 253 people in the chat, and, you know, how many of you would opt in if 8v8 group queue was a thing?
Or maybe we make the vote a little bit
would
simpler.
you opt in?
Go with the vote a little bit. Go with the vote a little bit simpler. Group queue.
Yep.
And so it's either a Y or yes in the chat, or no. So a yes is group queue and solo opt in, because I don't think you can do it without it. You have to have both. And then split it off to solo queue entirely. Yes or no? That's it. We'll leave the chat for 30 seconds and see what happens. There's lots of yeses. Look at that.
Oh, yeah,
there's a couple of no's
they're
there.
flying. A couple no's.
Mostly yes. Everyone wants group queue opt in. See, yeah.
See, the thing is that 8v8 is particularly important because the fewer people in a match,
8v8, yes,
the easier
8v8.
it is.
Key,
Yeah,
8v8. Key.
But I'll mention particularly why. 8v8 makes it so much easier for the matchmaker to form matches which are more balanced and even and faster search times. And it also means that you're searching for less players to form those groups.
And you still have the 4-man limit, right? Like, I'm not saying remove the 4-man limit, leave the 4-man limit. Although I don't like it personally, but for the sake of not having groups of 6 and 5s and uneven numbers, you know, just do it. Just do 4. Max of 4, that's it.
I'm going to go so far as to say the game is played better at 8v8. It legitimately is played better 8v8. The maps are better for 8v8, everything.
All of comp is 8v8 for that reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have room to maneuver. You can basically capitalize.
It's also
strategies.
easier for people who want to carry, want to, I guess, quote unquote, try hard would be the term, to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also
easier for those types of people.
It's also easier to peak a position and not get hit by 12x.
Yeah, time to kill.
Right.
So
time to kill changes too.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's also
that is, I think,
right.
I would like to add, sorry to interrupt, I think that is actually a major issue with this game for new players. They don't understand the flow of the battle. They don't understand the flow of the map, right? Obviously, that's kind of how that would work. And you just pop up over a ridge and there's 5 mechs, whatever, cluster in an area, you're dead.
Boom.
You're halved, you're dead. That's just, and you're like, what just happened? I see that all the time.
I'll postulate something as well.
Indirectly, or maybe directly, actually, just fix that issue.
So here's something as well. I honestly think 8v8 compared to 12v12. There's a word I'm going to mention, and it's NASCAR.
Hey,
I think 8v8.
He said it, guys. Sorry, chat. He said the word. He said the bloody word. Oh no.
And I think honestly, 8v8 there's less people on the field, and you have more freedom to move. That NASCAR will probably become less common.
Well, you don't have 4 or 5 lights or mediums come to nibble on your butt in an assault, right?
Yes,
it's just not going to happen anymore. So yeah,
And
like
so,
you have like 4 medium pulse lights or mediums just like running at your back, and you have 8 other people at another side. It's like the firepower is just too much. You have to either run away from the firepower or just run after your targets to get that firepower on target. That's a major issue. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And the other thing as well is, by having 8v8 in quick play, we don't lose 12v12. Faction play exists. You can drop with your group of 7 friends or 11 friends or 5.
Whatever,
you can
right? Pick a number.
More than 4.
And I think leaving it at 12 actually for faction is perfectly fine, and it fits.
Absolutely. Yeah,
48 mechs, respawns, all that. You want all that. You want all that stuff. You got it. You got the respawns. You got you've got more tactics, I guess, in a way, like different waves, all this stuff. You've got all that. The mode is there for it, and for larger groups too. And this whole thing again. That's why I think, even though I would like to have a 6 or an 8-man option in 8v8, I can see that there's benefit to limit it to 4 and then go from there.
See, but here's the thing, and maybe I'll detract from that a little bit, right? So if we're going to 8v8 group queue with solo opt-in, allowing groups all the way up to 8, I think would help the queue a lot better, because otherwise you're putting way more pressure on solo opt-in to round out some of those numbers, right? If you're dropping with a group of 7, you need 1 solo opt-in in order to round out your numbers.
It could,
right?
It could.
And I mean, unless you're saying that you can have 2 groups of 4 on either team, or a group of 4 and a group of 2, right?
So you can have a 3-man group, right? And that's where the solo. So if you have two 3-mans, the 2 soloers come in, no worries. Again, it could go either way, man.
But you see where I'm coming from, right?
Oh yeah.
Because even like when you think of it, right? Some people want to be able to play with their friends. Streamers want to be able to drop with as many viewers that they can drop with without having to resort to sync drops or doing group rotations or anything like that. Right? Like doing 8v8 group queue with solo opt-in is really just that. It really kind of brings in that ability to have your big group of friends go in and play, even have the competitive folks come in at 8v8. Yeah, they're going to be a tough opponent to go against, but I mean come on, there's somebody in the video game better than you.
It's been going on it's been going on since the game started. So there's no again, the whole there's a better group out there. That's been going on forever, right? That has existed in everything forever. There's always someone better. So drilling in and focusing on that is the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, I would certainly look beyond if it's 8v8 with opt-in. I would look beyond locking the group sizes to 4 max. I would consider going above that. My opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd also consider giving like a CBIL XP bonus for solo players who opt in, so there's an incentive. So there might be harder matches, and so as a solo player, let's reward you with a bit more CBILs and an XP for the matches that you play in the group queue. And that way, there's an incentive. And like you said, it's an option. If you want to play solo queue only, solo 8v8s, go nuts. But let's say you want to level a mech, but you want a bit of a challenge, opt in. Yeah, there's an incentive to do so. And you only really need 1 or 2 solo players to make an odd or even, group summation work. Like you have a group of 3, a group of 2, a group of whatever. You only usually have an odd or an even Tetris piece to fit in. So you don't need that many solo players to make it work usually.
The other problem right now with the soup queue is that you can have a 3 and a 2-man and then just basically 500 tons almost. It unbalances the tonnage a lot. Not always, because sometimes they're dropping in a 4-man in 4 Urbies or something.
Please.
4 flea bags, right? And giving everybody the itches, but it can go all different ways, right? So Soup queue's been great for games, right? It's been great for speeding up of matches, but have those matches really quality improved? I'd almost say it's gone the other way. My personal feeling.
Sure. So in the interest of time, just because we could probably talk about, you know,
I was about to
88
move on
for
from
an
that. Don't
hour.
worry, man. I'm looking at the clock on the corner of
All
my
good,
eye.
mate.
I'm like, we need to keep going. So,
Let's go.
Yeah.
AV8, a bit
Anybody
more
have
of
final
a
thoughts?
yeah. That's more of a discussion. Next one, spawn points. Not going to cover too much on it, but this was just the feedback so far. With the Q merger, especially, this is another problem with the Soup Q merger. There are spawns now that are absolutely, they're stuffed, right? It doesn't work on certain maps. So this comes back to the tying into, is the Q going to stay the same? If it is, a lot of this stuff needs attention. Some of it needs attention anyway, but you know, Canyon Network Alpha, again, Hibernal, Tourmaline, the Alpha on Conquest Domination. You know, teams are just annihilating solos. If there's no team on the other side, you just annihilate them from Tourmaline. I mean, I'll do it every time I play the map. We just almost 9 out of 10 times just annihilate 4 of the enemy guys within about 30 seconds. It's not fun for anybody, right? River City domination needs to be fixed. The domination circle was moved, I think, but the spawns weren't. So it's a 1-1. It's actually extremely unbalanced now. Crimson Strait has been unbalanced since the dawn of time. I feel like it's
The
really
map is
bad.
not balanced. It's just an unbalanced map.
The map isn't balanced, but you can
Yeah.
fix some of the map balance with the spawns as well. So Mining Collective, a little bit of a move there as well. But again, the spawn points, we can sort that out later. That can be a more of a discussion point, but it depends on Soup Q or Group Q as to what happens with the spawns now as well. Because I honestly do not think the response in the chat would be so many. Yes, Group Q you know, that's actually a bit surprising, to be honest. So that was interesting. But that will tie into spawn points and how they work later. Moving along, match score kickers. Paul said in July 2020. Not that I'm pointing it out. It was like there's 4 months, nothing's happened or anything. It just it needs to be discussed and looked at. Need to get it happening. AMS, for example, gives way too much reward for match score kickers. It's skewing players up that should not be going up. I even saw watching some streamers the other day. The guy's average match score is around about 240, which is just above the median of the player base. He's running around at max tier 1 bar. You know, there's some things that are just not. If everyone's going to skew up or down because of various things in the match score kickers that aren't correct, they definitely need to be adjusted. And I mean, Paul knows that. He did say that on the forums that they will look into it. Just putting in the document as a highlight as well, it still needs to happen. So I think we. Has anyone really got much more to say about that one? I mean, there's a separate discussion on a different Discord going on about that, and we can put forward better numbers later, I guess. But
I'll kind of talk about it a little bit because I know that in the casual community there is a bit of, I'll say, some mixed feelings around the PSR side of what happened over the summer. Keep in mind that the PSR kind of reskill, the reset that happened, how PSR is calculated within a match. In some respects, it's kind of necessary for the match score kickers to be addressed in order for the new PSR system to really show its merits, right? So there's some people that feel they're moving down where they probably shouldn't. They may or may not be right. Who knows? It's a matter of we're essentially working with half a system right now. So and again, that's a community driven.
I see that everywhere, man. I see it everywhere. It like I said, all areas of the community. It's most people know that there's something whether they know exactly what is causing it or whatever, they just know it doesn't feel 100% right to them, you know. And that's all there is, from what I've seen anyway. Most people are like, it's not quite right. I don't really know why. I don't know the science and the detail because there is quite a bit of numbers in behind it. You know, I've seen quite a few of those. It's pretty obvious straight away where the gaps are, but again, just putting it in there to highlight it. That's it. Anything else for that one?
On the next one, I would,
No,
because they tie together.
Yeah, the second one, secondary lobby balancing. Before, I was very, very vocal about this on the forums and almost had my access removed at the same time, so that was annoying. But there is no secondary lobby balancing, right? So that once the matchmaker finds 24 players, it just goes, hey, I've got 24. Off you go. It's almost like who was the first 12 in or whatever. There's no secondary balancing. Like I could be running a 4-man, and as an example here of 99% players, and then I end up with Jay-Z and the vid on my team as well. It's like, hang on, what? You've now got 7 or 8, and then the overall balance percentages of the lobby, one team has an 80% average and the other team has 60% average, right? You know instantly this game is going to not be fun or balanced. So if there was a secondary lobby balance here, feel free to debate this a little bit, but I don't think tonnage matters that much if one of the 99% players, for an example, again, I'm just using this as an example of percentage, right?
Yeah.
If you have 4 in one team as a group and you've got 2 or 3 of the other ones in solos, they should just be on the other team, just to balance the skill. Tonnage, if you're more skilled in a light, everyone's seen me play lights, not everyone, but I am very good at it, right? So you put me in a light, I'm at a disadvantage, but you put me in an assault or a heavy, it's entirely different. So if higher skilled players are in their preferred tonnage, they can dictate a game. They can have much more control than just stacking them all on one side.
I think the what we're talking secondary lobby balancing is like an alternating thing. So for example, you put the best assault player in that 24 on team 1, second best on team 2, alternate down heavies, medium, lights. So you have an even-ish
You just try and even as best you can. Yeah. I mean,
and so what's going to happen if you do it that way? You get plus or minus 1 of each weight class. You might have 4 assaults versus 3 assaults, but you'll never have 4 versus 1, or what we see in these screenshots. And so, you know what I'm saying? If you zigzag it down just like that, with 24 players, you'll get at most 1 more or less of each weight class, and as close to an even skill
I've seen
average
so
as you
many
possibly can
screenshots where tonnage
That's
is
it.
all over. One side has 400 ton advantage and wins. One side has 400 ton under advantage and still wins. And because it all comes down to skill. Tonnage does matter, but it is not anywhere near as critical as skill balancing.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, I don't know how hard it is from the server side and like bandwidth, as PGI has talked about, to assign different PSRs to pilots for different weight classes. For example, like you can work on those.
They used
and
to.
when the when you press search, well, you have selected a mech and you press search. That means that the server should pull out the PSR that corresponds to the weight class that you picked, and then the matchmaker can go on from that. So that's I think.
I don't care if it just picks the only 24 players in there. Just spread them more. Just distribute them more evenly. That's it. Yep. All right, let's move on.
Yep.
Now, faction play. There is more to faction play. I know Yondu has put up a hi mate. Put up a solid thread of ideas. I haven't put all of them in here. I actually stopped doing it because listening to some of the podcasts and Daron, faction play doesn't seem to be the focus in the near term. This was pretty evident, so I haven't bothered to put too much in there. Not that it isn't important, but PGI have hinted towards that it's not important right now. So just a couple of basically faction play quick fixes, and I'll run over these pretty quickly. Look, I love faction play. Don't get me wrong. Right? I've played 5,000 games, easy faction, almost more than quick play. And I'm not even lying, over the last 4 years. It's insane. I love it. But if PGI don't want to go there yet, because it's a bigger topic for them, you just have to roll with it. One of them is increase the conquest tickets, 1,500. It might need to be 750, but start at 1,500 at the bare minimum. Quick, easy win. Domination circle, 120 seconds for faction play maps. Polar Highlands, for example. Doesn't matter how coordinated you are, with the circle so small as it is, you're not ever going to get back to the circle in time to do anything about it. It's just impossible when it takes 4 minutes to walk across the map. So just 2 real quick ones there. And also faction maps in private lobbies. That'd be cool. A really, really cool one would be to add the respawn mechanic and drop decks in there. That's probably a lot of work, admittedly, and maybe a long shot, but even if you can just get the maps there, teams can do just some private lobbies, just have some scrims, have some fun. I mean, there are units, and we'll come to this later, that just exist to play faction play. They don't do anything else, honestly. They don't play quick play. So, again, trying to cater to all your community, all your player base as best you can, just at least adding the maps into private lobbies is a real quick, easy win. Any thoughts on any of that? That's
all
a win.
good.
Nope.
No, all good.
It's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, that one. And look, I would love to touch more on faction, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I think it needs its own
It
podcast
does.
faction
Yeah.
play, because there are a lot of aspects on faction play alone that they can improve, but not on a low hanging fruit scale.
So we move on to now we're getting into some of the juicier stuff here, actually. We hit it early. We were kind of, the middle ground was a little bit, but now we're starting to get into the good fun stuff, right? So I'll pop over some of these probably a little bit quickly, and we can come back to it because, again, I don't want to go for 5 hours here today. We're only halfway through the document. But So community events, community interaction, and engagement of your player base, right? So the move for, and this is just highlighting some good stuff that PGI have done here, and to keep it going with the weekly, fortnightly events. Matt revamped it, I think, in PGI a couple of years ago now. It's really good. I mean, despite the criticality, and I'm critical myself of some of the events where it just turns the queue into Kamikaze Warrior Online with people suiciding and doing the dumbest shit you've ever seen. At the end of the day, the events are still good. Keep them going. You know what I mean? There's good rewards. They up the MC, the C bills, all that was increased by PGI. I reckon that's bloody great. And that's been the feedback that I've seen. It's really good there. Faction play events. There needs to be something monthly or even bi-monthly. And as I said earlier, players and units exist just for faction. There are heaps of them, and they are not being catered to at all. I just think a faction play event once a month. Well, sorry, not I. Again, just reading from the document, the feedback has been that, hey, just put one event on once a month for a weekend, or put a larger one on for a week every 2 months or something. It's a cheap and easy win to get some players and units into the queues and give them something for their time, right? A play with the pros, similar to the old Masters event before somebody kind of ruined it. But maybe we could get back to going to maybe a fortnightly or something. MWO Comp, I know we are happy to facilitate that, run it all, so Dayron can just rock up and just shoot the shit with us or something like that. And again, it was I personally, when I was watching years ago, just as a casual guy, I love watching that. Like, hear Bowser talking and doing some 1v1s and just explaining why and what. And you know what? Just having some fun. I think it was a really quick, good, fun, easy one. A play with the devs as well as another idea that I've seen mentioned a few times. Some of those beef videos are hilarious. And this comes back to content and community engagement, right? Some of this stuff is amazing. Like the beef stuff, he's a bit satirical and takes the piss, but it's also good fun to watch, right? Even when we've done faction play testing before, I got a bunch of guys together for Paul. We tested out Lobbies, and then Paul comes along and starts screwing around with us all. It was hilarious. We didn't realize what was going on until we all got long tomed. Like, okay, stop doing that. And then it happens again. It's like, okay, right, this is really shitty, but it was still funny, right? And I think that almost, I don't want to say removes that sort of stigma, but it just gets the developer back more involved, a little bit more with the players. Again, I don't mean playing it all the time, just now and again. Streamer support. Dayron, when he was NGNG, used to organize that for a lot of the streamers and packages and things like that before the departure. That did stop for a while. Matt has started that back up again, which is amazing, like legitimately amazing. I know I'm pretty in touch with most of the streamers, and everyone is loving that. I know Nutty has done a bit of work there as well, so thank you to you there, mate. That's been amazing. And streamers themselves, they build and they bring a community, right? They bring players to the game and they keep players in the game. I just think also that streamers, you need to be careful. This is always a tough one for PGI to work out, and it always is, right? You don't want a streamer coming in for a week, showering them in goodies, and they just walk away 3 weeks later, Like, they need to be working and building a community. And I always think that is a great way. I use Twitch a lot for new games that I'm playing and all these sorts of things, and I've got specific streamers that I'll watch and I'll go play with, and people play with me, and Nutty, Jay-Z, when you guys are all streaming Bowser, like it doesn't matter. You can be any skill level. You just build a community, and supporting that is great. And like I said, great to see Matt start that back up again after a bit of hiatus. That was sick. Truly, that was sick. It was really good.
Something I want to add to the whole streamer support thing is, there could be an opportunity for Piranha Games to put a little bit of development time to hook MWO directly into Twitch to do things like Twitch drops on streams and things of that nature. Other games do that quite quite heavily. They do it either as like special events, or they have them doing all the time, like World of Warships, which I know was a game that Russ likes to kind of compare to, and I'll say it's a fairly reasonable comparison. You can get World of Warships drops by watching streamers sometimes. So having that be able to connect your Twitch account with an MWO, to be able to kind of pull that stuff in, it even that would even reduce the overhead for Darren and for Matt for having to give out codes or anything like that. They can just flip on a on a drops event and say, hey, go stream and put this in your title.
Yep.
People get drops, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of streamer support options that are out there that will help with the community building that we all do.
And a lot of this, it didn't exist years ago either, right? So this is not any fault of PGIs or anything. This is sort of just, there's some new features around. Jump on board, get on with it. Just a quick comment here from the chat. Not that I touch on this too much, but just from Super Noodle, I left because I had doubts about the small player base, stop streaming, blah, 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 relationship with the devs. Supporter streams is nice, but it's irrelevant if the game has larger problems. I can just understand that. The whole purpose of all these ideas is to address some of these problems, right? This is not just one thing wins, right? And you'll see later on when we come to new player experience, this is about a holistic approach. What are the different things you can do? And there are different areas within PGI, devs versus architects versus marketing, right? This is not one dude's job, right? This is maybe 10 dudes' jobs to spread the workload around. So beef, Twitch drops, yeah, exactly, yeah, man, that's it, spot on. Now, this is a really good one. I've said a lot on this too. Social, unit, and recruiting. MWO obviously is a community and team-based FPS generally, and the in-game social is not very good. The units keep MechWarrior around pretty strongly, and the player base, and again, it's about building communities. Units do that, and some of these units have been around BattleTech and stuff for 20 years, right? So you want to make it easy for these people to get, like-minded individuals into their units and working with them, if more not for the social aspect of anything else. But right now, it's really hard. I think some easy, well, again, I keep saying but this is what I wrote in the sheet, which is based on what everyone else has sort of told me. But, PGI makes an MWO Discord. There's one for MechWarrior 5. Why isn't there one for MWO? And, you can have some looking for unit channels, looking for unit type. I'm a guy looking for a casual unit. I play at these times. I want to play lore builds. Or you got all these stock mode builds, whatever. Have a Discord, get PGI in there, have some community people helping out with all this sort of stuff, and just make a really easy resource for units to find each other, because it's on the forums. It's buried deep in the faction play section to find the unit or the comp section. It's really not easy to find, and units are not always. Again, granted, not everyone wants to be a part of a unit, but units. Generally, if you build a community of like-minded friends and people that you have fun with playing, you're going to stick around longer, right?
Yeah. And that goes to the other comment that was mentioned about the fact that Twitch drops are now available as a thing within Twitch. So too has the engagement process worked between developer and player. Since MechWarrior Online came out. Back when MWO came out, forums were really all the rage. That's where you would go to find all the things. Exactly. Now you've got Discord, you've got Twitter, you've got other social media outlets to engage, right?
Well, we're coming to that soon, mate. I've got a beautiful one for you. You know that one's coming. It's coming, man. That one's coming, all right?
Oh, absolutely.
And even a unit recruit tab somewhere. I mean, there's actually too many chat tabs, I think, in MechWarrior Online at the moment. There's like 8 tabs or something, if you have them all enabled. That's too many. You need to condense it down and fix the in-game social interaction so people can chat a lot easier. I mean, you type 3 messages in a row, you get timed out for 90 seconds, right? Kind of a pain in the ass. Like if you're trying to help someone actively and you're typing a lot of information, you type more than 3 lines of text in I think it's a 30-second period. I get that there's spam rules and why it is there for some things, but when you try and help people out, it just blocks you constantly. You are fighting some of these restrictions that, look, back in the day when there was maybe 100,000 players, yeah, the chat probably did need it, but when there's 15, 20,000, it probably doesn't anymore. So some of these things just need a quality of life update. The unit C-bill recruitment cost. I know the chat going to go berserk over this one because I've actually had people private message me, tell PGI, remove the unit cost. How can we build units as new players that are trying to build the game when we don't have any C-bills? Why are we having to pay money for this? Like in-game
I'd like to add an addendum to that, by the way.
Go for it.
So units with C-bill coffers, they should be able to give that to the players. They should be able to give that to new players. Why does it just sit in there? I know of units with billions of C-bills in their coffers they can't do anything with. Why?
I get it, but
why?
Also the flip side of that one is that it would absolutely destroy the in-game economy if I could give 100 million C-bills to 10 players today.
Why does that matter? That's my question.
look, there is. I mean, that's probably a question for PGI to answer. Actually, is where and what restrictions and requirements around their economy. You know, like, do they want everybody able to just buy a GSP pack and skill all their mechs out and load them all out for free instantly?
Right, but we also want new
Or not.
players playing the game.
I've got more coming.
To do it.
New players, we've got some more stuff
Yeah.
coming on that in a minute, which may well cover some of that cost off.
I
right?
mean, that
Yeah,
might
we have a whole
that
section
might
for new player experience.
yeah, that might conflict with some of the monetization
Yeah.
model.
yeah, it ties into monetization for later on. It's coming. It's on page 5 or 6, I think. So we're getting there. I don't disagree, Bowles, but I think there may be some things there within PGI and how they want to run their in-game economy. That might be a larger development question with new player experience later, perhaps.
Yeah, the unit coffers and that sort of thing are probably one of the most cobweb-ridden, derelict portions of code in the game. There was a lot of intended stuff in the faction play world with that, and so it's an artifact of cobwebs on it, which unfortunately, look, 228's got a few C-bills, all right, and
it's a system of a bygone era. Put it that way, right? Like it was there. It had its purpose. Oh shit, 4 years ago or whatever it was. It doesn't now, so get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Just makes it easier. So an event queue. I've heard this talked about a little bit. I've seen some feedback back and forward about it. Having a separate event queue would split the queue. I'm gonna duck away and get some more water while you guys talk about this one very quickly. But what do you guys think? Is splitting the queue here a good idea for an event queue or not a good idea? Considering we already have Faction, Solaris. Right now, Comp queue, which gets disabled soon anyway, so that's okay. And then sort of the soup queue. Where do you think
I have a lot of opinions
sits?
on this?
I'm going to let you go with that one. I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to get some water, so I'll be back in a minute, guys.
I have a lot of opinions on this because when you look at what the intention of event queues could be, this is where the silly things happen. This is where the fun things happen, right? You have your quick play where you do kind of whatever you do in quick play. You've got faction play for factions, but then you get this event queue where you have things like Irby knife fighting challenges or quick draws with like plus 1000% missile velocity or something along those lines. The silly things that you would do in game for the sake of just fun. It's nothing to do with lore. It's nothing to do with any kind of competitive play. It's everything to do with just absolute fun and silliness and whatnot. And just because there's an event queue doesn't mean that it's used all the time. It's used for special events, right? It's used for once a month. There's some kind of crazy queue that happens on the weekend. It's 4v4 4v4 learn mechs only on Polar Highlands.
Yeah,
right?
it can be anything, like
Do you
flea
want,
racing, like on HPG.
You want to catch cancer from that? Lerms only on Polar Highlands?
No, I mean it can be anything, any sort of objective.
Yeah.
It might come into like some of the map design and objectives, but for example, racing fleas across HPG, like around the ring, or like silly things like that. It's like I don't know how easy it would be from the map design perspective, but whatever.
So here's how I think about things. Now, I know it's probably not the lowest of hanging fruits, but multi-queue select is something I mentioned in MechCon in person. And thing is, in multi-queue select, just so you know, it's like a drop down. So I can like a server drop down. You can drop on Oceanic, and NA, and European, or any combination. Well, if there's a similar thing, I could go as a solo player, go solo queue, group queue as an opt-in. If possible, like Solaris Division 4, 5, and 7, and event queue. Now, obviously, I know it's complicated because when you go between the tabs, and I've had a discussion with PGI, it's difficult to do that. But if that was possible, you could actually have this event queue be a lot easier to run. Ultimately, during events, the group queue becomes the event queue, and the solo queue remains. So
that would actually, I think, work quite well. Yeah. You want to go do the event and play the group fun stuff, you go do that, right? Yeah.
And if you want to play serious groups, well, for that weekend, just do private lobbies or do something else. Like, faction, yeah. I think we'll be realistic, is that we don't need a quick play group queue with solo opt-in 24/7 when there's an opportunity to use that same queue without creating another queue as an event queue.
Yep.
Yeah. The buckets is certainly a concern, right? The more buckets we have, the more fragmented it gets, the harder it gets to find a match. I certainly get that.
And I want to put in all the buckets. I'll happily select all the buckets, and it said matchmaker use me as needed to fill in whatever queue is needed. I don't care what I play as sometimes. I just want to play a match.
Yeah, 100%. It's like give me a match. I don't
care
yeah.
what. I don't care how you give it to me.
Yeah.
Just feed me the pizza. I don't care where it comes from. Feed me the pizza.
I want big stompy robots. I don't care how.
Exactly, because podcasts for years, Russ has mentioned buckets and buckets, and I'd be like, well, the players want to put in multiple buckets. Like, let us put ourselves out there for the matchmaker to use as necessary.
I'll just put in buckets.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking of a funny meme that was you may well have seen on my Discord this morning, the whole bucket thing. But anyway, I'll leave that where it is. Now,
I mean,
we're getting to the good stuff now. Oh, not the good stuff, but the interesting stuff, right? So, new player experience. There's a bunch of different things here. I'll just, because we're nearly an hour and a half, so I'll sort of run through a few of these points. We can come back and go over them if needed. New game, the in-game shop and UI for new players. It's bricked. It's very clunky. It is not clear and very easy to see. This comes back to monetization, which is after new player experience. I put that at the end because actually a really interesting discussion, I think. And it needs a rework. It's probably a pretty big undertaking for UI. Anything UI generally is, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done right with the shop. A cadet bonus of some sort at the end of a cadet games. Give them something, a choice of a mech, or after their cadet games, right? They're 25 cadet bonuses. They've played a few of the trials, perhaps, all these sort of things. And like, okay, maybe I want to give this a shot. Give them a Warhammer, a Grasshopper, a Hellbringer, Ebba Jag, a Wolverine, whatever, right? That can be sorted out later. But just give them something and say, hey, here's a little carrot. Do you want it? And everyone will go, hey, that's nice. Don't give them like a direwolf or something, a really slow, clunky assault that generally is going to be a pain in the ass. Give them something that's actually not too crappy to pilot for the new player, right? Again, it all comes back to the new player. The tutorial, I haven't investigated this myself. Again, this was just one of the things added in from what other people are saying. The tutorial, the content needs a refresher as some of it is out of date. I don't know exactly the finite detail, but suffice to say, we could probably come back to that later. Further
I played it recently.
Yep.
I played it recently again because I was helping a brand new player through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually decent. The tutorial is decent.
I thought it was not too bad. Yeah, I actually recently did it again. Funnily enough. Yeah. Maybe I'm not sure exactly. We get some more detail around that tutorial. Yeah, I know who. A couple of people were telling me about that, so we can come back to that later. This is a big one. Cadets in tier 3. Appreciate the PSR needs to be 0-sum. However, cadets it need to be tier 4.5 or lower. No new player ever should be dropping it against the top end of the player base. It's one of the most new player critically important things that I have seen people have put to me and discussed. It just has to happen. That's it. Your new players should never be in tier 3.5. They need to really fix this urgently, and this is not a 6 months away. This is a do it now kind of problem. That's the level of feedback that I've been seeing is do it now.
Yeah, I mean, it has multiple.
No, go ahead, Navid.
It has multiple levels. It's not just skill, because new players, when they come in, they're new to many other game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't know what arm lock means.
Yep.
They don't know like how like the mech moves and how that moves and how this works. And when they get crushed, they don't even know what happened, or they don't learn like what was behind
I actually not even joking, watched a new streamer the other week, man, and I'll tell you, the poor dude was broken. He had 20 losses in a row, fresh account, and you try and help the guy, but I mean, it's just so much information to learn, and you're never going to soak that up in your first 300 or 400 games as most players. You're just not, right? And what does getting flogged all day do? Nothing.
And that's what I mean. Like I've said, I've walked through the tutorial with a new player. Like, is a lot of information. It's a real lot. And like, I know a bit about the PSR reset and things. And we never asked them to be reset to tier 3. That was a decision that was outside the community's suggestion.
Yep. No one asked for it. We just kind of ended up with it. So.
We ended up with it, and it can work. But we got some ideas of how to deal with that, which I won't go into. They're quite technical. But the thing is that I, as an experienced player, don't want to playing against new players for the same reason that the new players don't want to play against me.
Exactly.
It's ways. It's like it's. I want everyone to have fun in this game.
And maybe and certainly maybe more aggressive like placement, right? Because you get some of us will create an alt account, we'll go in, we'll start playing. Certainly we don't want to purposely smurf ourselves down to tier 5 to like some people kind of accuse, people want to club seals. No, goodness no. But
honestly, I don't get
having,
that argument. Like, no one wants to do
it's
that.
weird. It's weird,
nuts.
but having kind of dynamic tier placement, right? So when a cadet starts playing, the matchmaker pays attention to where they win, where they lose. There's other games that have this kind of that have this kind of this essentially personal calibration, and then at the end of X number of matches, you end up somewhere in the tier system. Right, so it'll put you against stronger players. You'll probably lose there. You'll put you against weaker.
I mean, we used to have that, right?
Weaker,
it used to exist. The weighted
system.
games. I mean, almost bring that back. If you're excessively losing your first 10, you should almost end up in tier 5.
Absolutely should.
It should be accelerated because you're very clearly not a player who understands the game, whether you're to a mid or high level or whatever, just starting a new account or for whatever reason, right? It should be, it shouldn't take 100 games to end up in tier 5. It should be 10. Maybe 15.
Yep. Yep.
Much more on that, I guess? Probably no. Not really.
No. I mean,
covers it.
no.
It's a longer discussion. And I don't.
It is a
really
longer
get into
discussion.
detail.
Yeah, the cadets
Um,
part.
it's-
But yeah, we
I've
can
got a
do
lot to
that
say
later.
about that, but we won't go there.
So a new player pack as well, called the NPP or whatever, the new player experience pack or whatever, right? And this is only an example, chat. I just had to put a dollar number in there just to throw something. So let's call it $35, right? And with the appetite of the new player, give them 4 hero mechs, give them 4 champions, whatever, C-bills, GSP, MC, whatever, some colors and some warhorns, right? Make a nice pack, and the idea is, and again, it's not quite a loss leader, but I mean, it's what I do all day in my restaurants and shops for the last 8 years, How do you get your customers in the door? How do you get them back? Give them something a little bit for free or at a reduced price. Entice them, get them to try, give them a taste. And like, hey, you know what? Actually pretty good. I want more of that. Bang, done, easy, right? I think that is it's been a very strong point of feedback, is do some packs and revamp the shop. That comes back to monetization later, but this was a specific one that it needed to go under new player experience, I think. Moving along quickly as well. It's going to bang out the trial mechs here. Community voting for trial mechs is good in theory, just is very bad in practice. Let knowledgeable players fix the builds and the mechs and build them. Again, they don't have to be meta, just builds that work. The Kodiak 3 is a perfect example right now. UAX and ER medium lasers, you basically alpha it once and the thing shuts down. Like, that is not new player friendly. Mechs with IS Excel engines, they're not going to understand these mechanics and why they lose the little part of their mech and they just instantly disintegrated, right? Again, just build the mechs that are smart, new player friendly, no 3 or 4 weapon groups. Just keep it simple, 1 or 2 weapon groups, just so, again, players can learn the basics, right? Skilled trials as well. I've seen this mentioned everywhere. Don't know the viability of it. Can trial mechs come with skills? So people know what they're going to feel like when they're skilled out, not when they're not. Again, having ECM mechs in the trial options when there's no skills on the ECM, because now you need skills for ECM to actually work, is just very disintuitive, because the ECM in the game gives you a description of how it works, and then you actually get into a drop in the game and it doesn't work that way because you've got no skills. New players don't know this, right? They are never going to know that. So that needs to be attention. And I don't know, this was another one. XP from trials. If you're using a trial and you earn some XP on the mech, can that be somehow kept to the mech if you went and bought it yourself? So you have a trial Warhammer, say you're playing the Warhammer for 15 games. You're like, hey, I like that. At the end of your 25 cadet games, you get the option to choose maybe a Warhammer or something. And you can even do that. Have the trials, and at the end of their cadet bonus, they can choose one of those trials to actually have, and you keep the XP from it because you've obviously played 10 or 15 games in it. You're like, hey, I'm actually enjoying this. Give it to them. Let them have it. So anyway, I don't think there's much more to cover there on the trial mechs. I think it's self-explanatory unless anyone's got anything.
Not very controversial.
They're being
no.
worked on at the moment. I'm having a look at some of them myself.
We can always do that
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
Also, there's another thing. Like, the balance and meta of the game has changed like since 4 years ago.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean you have a mislinks here with 4 small pulse lasers. It was fine, like 4 years ago.
Until the
but
G variant
it's a
came
joke.
Like,
right now.
And in full disclosure, about 10 to 12 of the current trials and champions are actually mine from years. I'm like, I've asked, please, they've
let us
changed
fix it.
so much.
Yeah, they're crazy.
I want to fix it. They're terrible now.
Now,
my name on them.
Trying to move along. This is a great suggestion from MDM. Kind of ties into some of the stuff I actually already sort of had written down anyway. It's funny how many people, no matter even if you haven't spoken to them, they're all on similar pages, right? Now, there was a lot of stuff about training videos. Get some higher skilled people, or people that are good at making video content or whatever. Like, make some videos for PGI and have them available somewhere. MDM actually brought up having them in the game. Like, when you click the Mech Lab for the first time, it brings up an in-game browser or an option to watch the video. I didn't even think of that. Like, I just make some videos and put them on the website and market them. But hell, man, that's even better. That's better again. Like, you click the Mech Lab for the first time and it says, hey, would you like to watch a 4-minute tutorial on how the Mech Lab works? Oh yes! As a new player, I would so fucking click that. Like, I'd be all about it.
Yep.
So I think that's amazing, great idea. If PGI can put it into the game and it doesn't lag the game, yes. If not, maybe have it external load or whatever. Let PGI deal with that. But I think that was a great suggestion. And again, give the content guys, give them an ultimate mech pack or something for their time if they make a video. I'm pretty certain most guys would be like, okay, cool, no worries. Or just give them something, People aren't going to want $150 to make a video for a game that they love. Just try and find some sort of middle ground. And again, have basics gameplay, advanced skills of gameplay, basic mech building, and basic skill tree. You could have 10 or 5, whatever, quick win videos, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it needs. Advanced stuff might be a bit more, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But again, new player experience, just make it simple. Give them some videos to help out, right? Like, that's what it is. Help them out. And I mean, that's what we do all the time anyway. I mean, especially the middle to higher skill streamers too. I mean, I constantly have new people, and I'm sure you guys do as well. It's actually funny, most of you guys stream as well. I didn't even think about this going in, but that's how it sort of turned out. We're always helping people, explaining how these things work, and people are like, oh wow, I didn't even know that. I've been playing for a year and I had no idea. Or you get some new guy come in and oh hey man, I've just seen MechWarrior Online, didn't know it existed, played as a kid. How does it work? And you're like, oh shit, well, Pandora's box, my friend. Do you have an hour while I explain all this to you, right? And you go through even mouse settings, just small things like mouse settings can make untold levels of gameplay and new player experience improvements. Actually, Redbeard he's a new streamer, new player. I'm sure he's probably watching. I just helped him out with some lobby stuff and just basic mouse settings and stuff. And it's all of a sudden, hey man, that made my gameplay so much more enjoyable from really small, critical, but small pieces of information.
I mean, there's lots to be done on that front. It's like, for example, like put little clips of each weapon, like how they look, how they fire. Ghost Heat, explain it to new players. Like, people just make a mech build. Like they may have played like MechWarrior games in the past, and they just make a mech build that worked back then. And I know there's a warning on top of the mech lab. It says, all right, so if you do this, you're gonna generate more than the number of more heat than you expect. But okay, so how much heat are you gonna generate with that setup? Like,
just explain how it works. Yeah, like
is it going to shut you down? Like, there is a chart for heat scale penalty. It's buried in a 2013 post by Paul, and that's basically it.
Or you have to look onto Smurfy or McDB.
Yeah, an external resource.
External resource by the community.
But you know what? Again, Wiki, right? There's a few, again, and then this is the other theme here too, right? Some of this stuff all ties into itself, and it is an ecosystem of ideas, right? One thing affects another. If there was a wiki that clearly explained this, right, you could just link to it from in-game. Very easy.
Like, it's not even new players. Like, even on Smurfy. Even on Smurfy, you go look at the ghost heat numbers or heat scale penalties, and there's a new quirk out there, like heat scale limit. Some of the mechs have it, like plus they can fire PPCs. And even if you look at Smurfy and you don't know what's going on the background, you can miscalculate how much heat penalty you're gonna get, even if you have a mech with heat scale limit quirk. So it's because it's so buried and it's so hidden. And that needs to be in a wiki, that needs to be transparent and forward.
And I mean, this comes back to stuff later, further in the document. I mean, some of the HSL quirks, like, they're really good. Like, PGI just stumbled across the awesome. And
man,
it's great. It's bloody awesome. It's fucking so cool. PGI made a mistake that actually was awesome. I love it. It's great.
Yeah,
dude,
we get the balance at the end.
Yeah, I know. We're going to move along.
Yeah, move.
Now, this is another good one. Monetization and marketing. Oh, man. What I do all day. I love this stuff, right? Now, mech pack and pricing. I think there has been nothing but pure unanimous feedback across everybody is the mech packs and all the pricing, all of this stuff. And this is going to high level, no deep diving here. I know Navid's going to go crazy on this one. And I would love to go crazy too, but it just all needs to be 2020, right? It's just no longer viable. An executioner is $29 on its own. That's madness, right? These things need to be looked at and readdressed. So I'll leave that as a high level one unless anyone got something specific to throw in there.
Some small things like microtransactions, like, $5, $10, $15 stuff, like packs of C-bills, GSPs. So basically, if I'm playing along, I'm like, I'm running out of C-bills, running out of GSPs.
They actually exist, but they're buried in the store and you can't find them easily.
They exist, but they're terrible value.
They are.
I get a few
very
PM
bad value.
Is the Jenna champion or the Sakai champion cheaper to buy? And then it's like, why is that even a question? It should be just the pack for dollars is always the best value than buying mechs and selling it, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've noted it down there quickly. Now, this is a big one. Email marketing. Do it, right? So PGI would have to have 1 million email addresses, at least, for all the accounts created over the years. Some of them are throwaway, whatever. But email your customers monthly. Same date every month. It has to be consistent. You have to follow a set rule. You can't just do it one month, don't do it the next month, right? It has to be consistent. There was something I comment about Steam feeds. I put this in here because someone sent it to me, but I don't understand how it works exactly. Nutty, you might know, but Steam feeds shows feeds from the games where posts get shown in the Steam players feed. So
what that is, that's streaming within Steam. So you can actually stream games directly within Steam, so it will show when somebody is live. So it's not a Twitch thing. That's actually specifically a Steam thing, which Piranha Games can do, right? Because that way it's direct engagement through the Steam client. Which I mean, half of us that play the game.
That's cool.
Right
I didn't
now
know. Yeah, this is what I mean. There's new tools here, right? So that's awesome. And the emails don't even have to be MWO related, right? Just engage your customer. Even if it's just a PGI HQ update, and there's nothing to show for MechWarrior Online that month, or there's an MW5 update or whatever, show your people, show your staff, personalize your service. PGI, I've met a lot of the staff there. They're all awesome. Like, what are they up to? I know I loved it, and others have expressed the same. Is why doesn't PGI stream like their art anymore, and like what they're up to and what they're doing, and like who was one of the artists who was streaming I think a year or two ago with the Rothman 2C. I love watching that. It was just so awesome and engaging. You don't have to always be playing a game to be engaged in it or engaging your player base. You can even, to engage your users, put in one-time redeem codes into the emails for, 500 MC, track who's reading the emails, who's watching them, who's logging in after it. There's so much analytics you can actually, almost too much in some ways, suck out of emails. And further to the email, you can link it across all the social medias. All of them, right? Like, there is one button that you can just send it to Twitter, to Facebook, and do it all. Like, it is so easy these days to have all these plugins and just email and market to your customers, right? Really, really good stuff. KWM, mate. Monetization's coming, mate. Can you just relax and stop pinging me in the chat, bro? I told you we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Trust me. Have some faith, yeah? And refer a friend. Simple to set up. Referrer gets some in-game stuff, and the referee gets some bonus stuff too, right? How best to get some people to play the game? Bring your mates. So, I mean, someone did say alt accounts and stuff can be a problem. I get it. But PGI don't merge accounts, so would it be open to abuse? Maybe, but just don't make it too much. But work out a way to refer a friend. Monetization as well. Merchandise. Self-explanatory. There might be some IP issues around what they can and can't do or have on t-shirts and stuff, but sell all the things, right? Just sell it.
The IP, the merchandising side of the IP is just an absolute hot mess. I mean, they might be able to sell like Piranha Games stuff, right?
Exactly,
Or
right? Like
stuff
put a
related
Sun
to,
Spider on a. Exactly, right? That's what I mean. Like there is merchandise ways to get around it, right?
Yeah.
So look into those options, what they can and can't do, and I do. Again, I appreciate that the IP and person who put this one in definitely is like, yeah, there is going to be some issues there, but you could always work around them, right? It's easy money. Who wouldn't, you want to support your stuff, sell it, right? So new pack options as well. This was kind of coming back earlier. Have an IS pack, a clan pack, a heavy pack, a medium pack. Change up the mech packs, right? Like revisit the pricing of them. A lot of it is too much. We've even got a starter play for faction, a starter pack here for faction play. Again, give it insane value to players that want to buy and spend their money, right? There's a pile of options here. Another one was the battle pass, or I forgot to put this in actually. It just reminded me now. Battle pass, thoughts, ideas. I mean, I've seen that discussed around the place. You get various options. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a can of worms in some ways. There's a lot of ways to go about it. Thoughts?
Well, by battle pass, you mean like something similar to like the Apex seasons, that kind of thing?
Kind of like that, yeah. You get some well, instead of like premium time, it's premium pass or something. So MDM brought up in the stream the other day with Phil was have a bunch of rewards, almost like the faction player unlocks, but over a season as you play more games and unlock these things, you get cool stuff right at the end. And then the big one is a mech at the end, right? So you buy your pass, whatever. Again, it's $30, right, or $20 or whatever for 3 months, and at the end you work towards all these unlocks and you get these things. That was his one of his suggestions. I thought it was a good idea. I mean, I wouldn't get it, but I could definitely see other players would jump on board with that if the rewards are worthwhile, for sure.
And there's even a way to do that to value the the folks that want to remain free to play as well, right? Like you have your free to play your free to play kind of path for a season or an event or whatever we'll call it season just for discussion, right?
Yep.
So you have like the free to play path, and then you also have the the monetized path, right? The subscription path or whatever you want to call it. Where you get, with the free-to-play path, you'll probably get like C-bills, you might get some consumables, you could get maybe a little bit of MC and work towards like a mech bay or two, right? Yeah. Whereas like on the bottom path, that's where you work, say, towards the mech, right? And maybe you get, you tailor, right? You incentivize paying into the battle pass.
And there's no pay to win in this game either. That's the best part about it, right? There really isn't. I mean, you hear a lot of pay to win and blah blah.
You caught me trying to think of, oh crap, I can't call it the pay to win line because it's not pay to win.
Yeah, it's not. It really isn't.
It's pay to accelerate grind.
Yes,
that's all it is. It's a free to play.
Yes.
So the thing is, let's say you work a job, right, and you don't want to spend 5 hours leveling a mech. You could pay a small portion of an hour's work, like let's say $5 worth, let's say roughly $3.50, it doesn't matter, to skip that from 5 hours down to 30 minutes and spend the rest of the 4.5 hours fiddling around in Mech Lab with all the leveled up skills and C-bills you want to screw around. And that's what you want. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like new player experience, like you should be able to, when you create a new account, like, because it hasn't changed over in the past 8 years. You get 4 mech bays, and that's it, and you have a bunch of trial mechs. And if you want to spend something, either like pay a huge chunk of money for identical chassis that you're gonna play only 1 or 2, or basically grind it out for like 3 years. You have to be able to turn your account into an account that has been playing for a year, like with like some packages that are there, like obviously multiple mech chassis. And also, there's another thing with monetization, like cockpit items. Okay, so right now they're just fluff. Bound some boosts to those. For example, they already have that. Like, for
The
example,
Civil War
They
ones.
do exist.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Sea-Bill XP ones.
like,
Civil War.
but and also
Yeah.
don't nickel and dime on those. Like 5%. It's a joke. I mean, you shouldn't talk that way. But it's like, think about like, okay, so you have something for $10 that give you like 5% Seabills. How many matches is it gonna take for that to just make up one match? So give it like 75%, 100%, like for that specific item that you have in your cockpit. Like balance it out, like with XP and Seabills, however you want to go about that. Like those things you can put it on your mech. Another option, give. I don't know how it's feasible in Mech Online is in its current way. Give players to turn their favorite mechs into a hero, like a
Well,
special mech. Like for example, I know Jay-Z has like 20 stalkers that he absolutely loves.
20?
And like
104.
no,
Come on now.
like it's like give him an option to turn those like into legendary mechs.
Well, I've got an idea for that, Nav. So I think there's something we're missing is buying mechs with MC. I think if you buy a mech with MC and the price should be leveled, like at the moment, Lights to Assault is really scaled significantly. For C-Bill cost, it makes sense because the equipment included makes sense to C-Bill for an execution to be like 10 times a Locust. But for MC, it should be a bit more leveled. Maybe not flat, but a bit more leveled. And if you buy a mech with MC, you should get like a permanent 15-20% C-Bill boost. Bit lower than a hero, right?
Yep.
Lower than a hero, maybe even 10%, whatever, 15%, whatever. But it's a permanent thing, and let it come with like a one-shot camo and some, like it's already in-game content. And actually, like I would actually buy Stalkers with MC, even though I have 105 of them. I bought one yesterday. I have 105 of them. I would actually buy some with MC to have some seal boosted ones. Like the point of monetization is we need to think about the player base has been going for 8 years. How can we incentivize people who've been playing for over those 8 years to spend more money? And to me, it's to have something I don't have. I've got 730 mechs. I have like 36,000 GSP, 4 million GXP, but I don't have Seabill boosters standard variants.
Yep.
That's what's something that the long-term players don't have, and that's why buying mechs with MC is like, well, let's give it a permanent boost to Seabills, not XP. Because we can give it XP boost if you want to. Give them both. Why not?
Yeah.
XP is already for champions. Definitely do a SIBO bonus. There should be an incentive. If you buy a mech for MC, even if prices are unchanged, there has to be an incentive.
Yep.
Tell me how many people buy mechs and then game store through MC. I'm gonna bet you it's a very short list.
In fact, even if you buy something for MC,
like,
let it
almost
come
everything
with
sale.
let it come with HSP. Like let's say MC bought mechs come with HSP as well. Historic SP just for that mech.
Yeah.
Give it 91. So, yep.
I would like to suggest as well, one thing that would be really good is if anyone's heard of War Thunder. So there's in War Thunder, you can buy what's called a talisman, right? And you can put that on any mech of your choice, or sorry, like tank, plane, whatever you want of your choice. And it's a regular one, right? And it gives it basically premium bonuses. So it gives it like premium C-Bill boost bonuses or money boost bonuses, whatever. You get the point I'm trying to make. Silver currency bonuses that you would get if you had a premium. So it's basically a hybridization between a full-on premium and, the other way around. And it's, not as much as a premium, but you can put it on anything, right? And that I think would be really cool. For example, your favorite mech, slap that baby on, boom, you get bonuses. Just akin to a hero mech. Doesn't have to be as good as a hero mech, but akin to that.
And a new
and
player,
that'd be just another way to make money.
It's an easy $10. What again? The price is another discussion. It can't be $100, right? Like the bygone era of $500 mechs is gone. Like you can't be $100. Got to be cheap.
I'd like to chime in if I could.
Yeah, go for it.
I know it's a bit weird, but consider that maybe like giving cockpit items and certain banners for your content creators. For example, like Baraduel, right? He has a lot of people following him, and if he had a cockpit item, say, based on him, that would be pretty interesting. Same with the Beef. Like, these guys have a big following, and it would be interesting to see them running around with say their favorite streamer's banner.
Not a
or-
bad
or in
idea,
their
actually,
cockpit.
man. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Again,
And
again,
decals.
comes back to that
Decals on
building, or building the community. You know what I mean? Like these people have massive followings. You know, I want to support the streamer kind of thing. But I also want to support the game. How do I do both? And that does bridge the gap. Actually, that's not. Yeah.
The other thing is like things happened 2016 about it, but having comp teams logos and decals and stuff in the game was pretty amazing. Tournament supporter packs, where you could actually like. I think it'd be amazing if people had 228 or JGX decals they could buy and support their favorite teams or Oops Bros, and like I think it'd be fun. But so about like microtransactions. At the moment, I think that some of the best microtransactions in the game are mech bays, colors, and camo patterns. Why is that? They're micro. So I think when we think about it, like the bolt-ons, for example, they're so limited to one mech. Like if I buy a chainsaw right arm for an Atlas, I can't put that chainsaw on any right arm of any other mech except the Atlas. You know what I mean? It's the bolt. Like I'm just thinking of these microtransaction things that are good. We got the camos and paints. But then we have things like the bolt-ons, which is so fiddly, and you have to. Like I basically gave up on them. I'm like, oh sure, I'd like to have chainsaws on mechs and boosters. But then if it's only limited to that one chassis, and I can't move it between chassis.
Hold up, bolt-ons. Don't make them get tagged off. Like I'll tell you a big reason why people don't buy them. I'll tell you for a fact. I've heard this from many people, and many people can confirm in the chat. You don't buy bolt-ons because you spend 1,000 MC, 2,000 MC, maybe 5,000 MC for the whole mech, right? They just fall off as soon as they're looked at. What's the point? Why would you? Why? If you're like cool little axes and fucking lights and everything, they fall off as soon as you're shot at. What's the point?
Yeah, if you want to customize your mech, you don't want it to be knocked off. Yeah. You want it to stick around until you're blown up or you lose an arm or whatever, right? You don't want the chainsaw still there after your arm's been blown off. Maybe then the chainsaw flies off with the arm or something.
No, well that's obvious.
It disappears. Right. Yeah.
But just like decals, the decal goes off with the component too. So I mean, there's really a system for it.
Yep. Agree to the chat here. Nothing else on that one.
And cheaper bolt-ons too. I think there's the revenue streams like bolt-ons and decals and stuff are great, and just keeping them affordable and practical and usable is good.
Yep. Having a quick look at the chat. Nothing too. Yeah. Okay. Balancing. This is another one. This is more a. This is more of a bring some of the players back item, I believe. Considering a lot of players quit over some of this stuff, and some of this will also actually keep the fun for players still playing. Again, we're definitely avoiding deep diving on this because I know this is the rabbit hole of all things, at least for some of us anyway. But mech mobility.
This is a weekend and crap flying discussion.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit. This is go to the pub and yell at each other for 8 hours kind of discussion. But mech mobility, only 35 to 40% of the mechs have seen some attention since desync, which was a huge impact on the player base. It has been a resounding comment of time to kill is so bad in this game now because if you make a mistake and get into the wrong spot, it takes you 4 seconds to get out of it. You're dead. It's pre-desync. Time to kill actually was not as short because the mechs were more mobile. Like even an Atlas could, for example, twist. Yes, it's had a little bit of a buff, but it still can't. You can't spread damage on what would be the quintessential tanking assault go brawl mech, I guess, in a way. So mech mobility is on the cards. And a lot of these things are XML edits too, right? So they're really quick, easy wins. This is not a redevelopment of a UI or a new feature. This is a couple of values in a file. That's what it is. Quirks, a 10% rate of fire for for an MG on a mech with a single ballistic hard point is just, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help the mech be any good. What quirks should do, and this again is resounding from most of what I read, is the quirks should make mechs fun and bring up crappy mechs up. Give them a 5% missile cooldown with 2 SRM. Again, these quirks don't offer anything to bring up these variants or make them fun. Locust 1V was IS Large Pulse was good fun. Yeah, the mech wasn't top tier, but hell, it was fun. And that's what keeps you playing, is that you can play different mechs because they're individual, they've got different quirks, different abilities, again, not abilities, but you know, they've got different things that they're good at, and you can have some fun with it. That also ties into HSL, set of 8 quirks, more of those. Again, we touched earlier, the 8Q awesome. PGI did it by mistake, but the community loved it. And it gave fresh life to mechs that otherwise were low tier. Yeah, it's not great. It doesn't have to be meta. It's, you know, you're never going to see it in all the comp play or anything like that. But you know what? You can run around and just shoot a whole bunch of blue balls at your mate. So how was that not fun? And also set of 8 quirks was touched on too by a few people. You know, people like their stock builds or at least stock hard points on mechs. Give them something useful, right? A 5% ER large range when your mech has 1 energy hard point, it's not really a useful set of 8 quirk. There can be more useful set of 8 quirks for those people that want to play that. And a lot of the player base plays around that. So look after them. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, certainly those things can be like they need to be looked at again, because there has been some changes that was not well received and kind of singled out a certain player style, like basically moved like a lot of other play styles out of the picture, like in competitive or like in quick play. And also the newer quirks that they've introduced, as you said, like heat scale limit quirks, like it's very good, like to bring out, because one of the issues in the past was that, okay, so you want, there has been some problematic mechs, you want to like balance them, but make some of those changes and suddenly you invalidate like 30 other mechs. All right, so I mean, or some other mechs can use an actual quirks and they can be brought up into the meta again, or meta, like what do you want to call it. And then there are some other changes like jump jet quirks that is on the Vapor Eagle. Well, think about it. Like you have a bunch of 35 tonners in the game that require like 1 million jump jets to be able to jump on top of the platform. Why not just put those jump jet quirks that's already in the game on the Vapor Eagle on those, and at least try to mitigate some of that? Like jump jets would require its own balancing, but still, just these are just some quick things that they can do to mitigate some of the issues that we have. So yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, one of the king crab has like 5% streak SRM2 heat.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Really?
What does it do? It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
I think the big picture idea here is that mech mobility and quirks can do the most important thing in this game, which is make the mechs fun and have a reason to buy them. So, for example, here's the thing. I personally think, like, as an example, Centurion is a terrible mech. But there's no reason to ever buy one. But there's the LBX-10 cooldown, 40% cooldown on the Centurion D. It wasn't strong. It was hilarious fun, though.
Yeah.
But the point is, it gives a reason to buy and own the mechs. And you have a reason to own the mechs because of flavors and variability and uniqueness and unique flavors of fun. Then I'll buy more mechs, and that means I'll buy more mech bays, which means I'll buy one level more, which means I'll monetization. And give every mech a reason to exist. How many heavies have full energy weapons? We've got Grasshoppers, we've got Black Knights, we've got 106Ds, we've got Roughneck 3As, we've got Thunderbolts. There are so many. If you're a new player and you go, I want to buy a laser heavy, and you buy one or two of those, you're not going to buy another 10 mechs that are like virtually parallel. Does that make sense? But if there's flavors and there's different quirks, and like the Roughneck is the super brick tanky one, and it kind of is already, but like it's a, you know what I'm saying, you go harder into those flavors with more spicy quirks. It gives a more reason to diversify your mech portfolio.
Yep. Totally
spend more money.
Yeah, And look, it's been, and this is why, again, like it comes back to, I haven't even written it in here, which is hilarious. We'll touch on the rescale part of it. Actually forgot the weapon balance was on a different spreadsheet, but even the mech rescale, it wasn't, again, I know we've touched on it, I really don't want to go down this road, because I mean, we've it's been pretty well documented that the volumetric scaling wasn't really true. MDM has touched on it in the stream the other day. Navid's touched on it. How deep or thick a mech is doesn't matter when you're looking at its face and shooting it from frontal on. It just doesn't matter that much. And some of these mechs being super fat, super big, has some pretty large gameplay implications when you can just CT a mech with some of the worst aim possible. You can still just destroy mechs because some of them they're just too big.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with quirks, you can play with it. So let's say the Jenna F, for example. You play with scale and its quirks at the same time. You can bring it back to be a nice little harassing poker. At the moment, it doesn't. It was my first mech in the game. I have a love for that mech. It's like and it's sad. Does that make sense? Like scaling and quirks together and mobility all together, I think, again, give the mechs reason to exist.
Yeah, I mean, on rescaling, like when the game was launched, like in 2012, like I know that there has been discussion back then that all right, so mechs, these our big mechs are gigantic, like they shouldn't be that big, like the Atlas, or because here's the thing, like the ranges on the weapons, they're linear, they're constant. Like if you like increase the size of your target, like the weapon that you had like from like 500 meters at the same range, that thing can get shot in the CT way more easier. And PGI actually went through a rescale in 2016. So it was like they opened the can of worms in 2016, but I don't think they addressed the major issues with the bigger mechs, and actually introduced those issues in some of the mechs that didn't have them.
Yes.
It's like, and then, for example, they say that it's volumetric scaling. I have the models. I know it's not volumetric. Like if you look at a 25-ton mechs and then look at a Panther or a Wolfhound, like I don't know how you look at it, but even with the naked eye, without counting cubic pixels, you can say that it's not volumetric. So I get that PGI want to have the feel of an assault mech, that it's like a huge, like hulking mech, but go with the middle ground option. Like just reduce them in size, not to be like perfectly volumetric, so that like things become too small to identify, or like it may affect some of the hit reg between like hitboxes. But again, like go with the middle ground, like as Jay said, with the quirks that is at your disposal. Reduce the size of those mechs, like bring it into a like more like sensible scale, and then play with the quirks to balance them. That's what I think.
Yeah. So like an example is, I know I've brought this up before, but let's say that the Stalker is a very small frontal profile, okay, compared to other assaults. Compared to a Battlemaster 85 tons, it's a very small frontal profile, and honestly, it could probably deserve to be scaled up slightly, okay. But I think, given its role and given that it is supposed to be the least mobile of all the 85 tonners, if not all the assaults, it should get armor quirks. Does that make sense? Like, you scale it up so the frontal profile is increased to make it a bigger target, but you also give it armor quirks to make it, as the Sana thing says, is a tanky mech. Does that make sense? Like, as you scale it, you play the quirks to make it its unique space. You don't try to make everything the same in uniform.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think you scale up and you give it armor quirks same time together.
Yep, that works. Anything else there? I kind of want to at the 2-hour mark, so kind of want to get to the live discussion, do about half an hour there with the chat and stuff. There is weapons as well. The balance pass here, people tried in 2018 and just didn't go that well for whatever reasons, right? At the time, so what? So be it, you got things like AC20 velocity versus heavy Gauss, and Gauss doesn't have Ghost Heap, but AC20s do. 2 peeps, 1 Gauss, the linkage. I mean, you've got heavy PPCs now, which have as larger of an alpha. You can headshot a mech with 3 heavy PPCs without any issue. Other mechs even have Ghost ghost heat linkages for the HSL quirks for ERPPC and Gauss. So if you can do it on other mechs, why can't you do it on all of the mechs? It just, some of the things don't line up. There's even other things when it comes to weapons, even mech balance, and other things like just armor redistribution. The Jenna, the Stalker, the Jagger arms, they need the armor back. It was a change that was done a little while ago, and it just needs to be reverted because the mechs, they just, like, no one uses them because, I mean, putting it frankly, they're shit. They're not fun to play when you lose your arm because you've got 16 armor when all your weapons are there. You know, you can be basically scraped by a Lerm 20 and lose your arm. Like, it's just not, there's a lot of things to bring back the fun in the game, and the resounding feedback on this part is people aren't going to spend money on the game or on mechs if they're not fun, they're not unique. It comes back to quirks, flavor. I mean,
Big thing in that vein, like small pulse, medium pulse, underperforming
all
weapons,
that.
large pulse, need to be buffed back up. This is a game about, at the core of it, it's a game about creating whatever you want inside of a mech lab and putting that on the field, right? And if, I don't know, 40%, whatever percent of the weapons, there's quite a lot actually in this game that are really quite bad choices. Like, what is even the point? You're shoehorned into certain builds and you can't do other things because these are huge, slew of weapons are just really bad. And make everything fun, make everything good. Like, I would mean reverting a lot of nerfs that have happened in the past years, in my opinion, the way as I see it.
Yeah, don't nerf down. Bring the stuff that is underperforming up a little bit more closer. Have some fun. Right. If you can make it the same, go for it. Again, make it. Again, there's actually a lot of chat. Again, it's just sort of saying, yes, quirks, bring back the fun, the uniqueness, even like Saruman, just bring back some uniqueness to some mechs and chassis and give players a reason to have something that is a little bit different. And then you'd buy it. You'd spend money on it. You'd be like, hey, this is a fun mech. Go get it. All right, sweet. I'll go buy one.
And bringing up quirks, particularly regarding mobility and survival, both increase time to kill.
Yes.
So obviously some quirks are good to increase the offensive output, but the mechs that we're increasing them on are bad mechs already, or they are glass cannons. Like I think the Hunchback 2C Ultra 20 HSL quirk is a great quirk.
Actually,
the
pretty
mech's
cool.
a glass cannon.
It's fun.
It's a glass cannon of a mech, and that's okay. It doesn't need survival quirks because it's designed as, read the lore, read the signer page for it. It's like the last mech those pilots use.
Yep. It's fun. Like it's just a fun quirk. That's what, again, it's just the word fun keeps coming back to my mind. And, there's maybe 40 or 50 mechs that I would play regularly, right? But if some of the other mechs are a bit more quirky, a bit different, and even like with Wolverine with, a bit more pulse arm, all these sort of just, look, the mech's not going to be great. It's not going to be amazing, but you can just have some damn fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, some of these quirks are actually like indications. Like, how many here think the Nightstar 9J with the dual UAC 20 quirk is OP and broken? It's actually pretty fun.
Yeah,
like I play it. Like I basically usually play it like in medium mechs, but that mech is really fun. The 9J.
Even the Boiler, man. They do UAC 20 Boiler.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
The UAC
it's fun,
20,
dude. It's fun to pilot.
Yeah, and it's not broken.
Yeah.
And also, there's just another thing is that some of those quirks give you indications that, all right, so you remember the Spider 5K that had like 25% machine gun rate of fire? And when the machine guns did like 0.8 or 0.75 damage per second, that quirk showed that, yes, the machine guns need a bump in DPS. That's why the Spider 5K takes it. And like some of these quirks on these mechs that show that, yes, it's not going to be broken. Well, that shows that, all right, so we can go ahead with reducing some of the penalties on this weapon, or basically like open it up to other chassis. And then on this chassis that we intended for, like, for example, reduce the heat from a UAC 20 because the arms are so like far apart, or increase the velocity on that, because that's one of the downsides of, for example, UAC 20. Like that's kind of how dynamic balancing is, and it's kind of tied into quirks, and you have to monitor the changes that you do over time, which is something that was stopped like a long time ago, and that needs to be brought back again.
Yep, exactly, man.
And something else really quickly is that there's over 1,000 variants in the game. If some variants only have one good build for it, that's okay. Just buy
That's
more
fine.
mechs.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with
Yes.
that, right?
Like,
Yes.
buy more mechs, spend more
And
money.
the problem is a good 30-40% of them don't have any good builds, and that's really
Yeah.
where the problem
It
lies.
could be
Yep.
totally
just
shit. Who cares?
100%
Yeah.
disadvantage to play
Yeah.
them, and that's just not fun in a game that's supposed to encourage creativity and diversity. That
Yeah,
has
it
that
could
as its
be-
main selling point, even.
Yeah, if it's only,
Absolutely.
and again, if there's only good at that one build, or it's fun with that one build, right? It gives you an incentive to want it, right? If it's
Yeah.
the same, if 10 other mechs all do the same thing the same way, it's like, well, but hey, this
Buy
one's a
more mechs,
little bit
give each other more money.
quirky. Hey, I want some of that, you know? So yeah.
So I'm just going to point out that we got to be really careful with this one because again, this is one of those discussions that we could end up,
Oh, that's done now. I think we've pretty much covered that off now.
everything.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay,
Because
just doing my duty to step in and be like,
oh,
hey,
that
hey,
no,
hey,
I was
hang on a
trying
second.
to get to that point as well. Now, this is where the fun's going to start. I'm going to have to. Hey, right, I've got attention to the screen over the other side here. Is the Twitch questions and suggestions? Things that again
So
we've.
maybe-
I'll just recap quickly what we've been through, just for everyone at home, or at work, or the toilet, or wherever you're watching. We've covered off skill tree things, grind, and you can go back and watch this VOD later, right? We've got some time of day, bring back some maps, terra firma, disconnection penalty, addressing that. For the client crashes, mech lab and heat management, better use of the UI, Mwo Wiki to help new players and older players, timestamps in the chat, so torso heat spike mechanic, just getting rid of it or adjusting the mechanic so that it's just not extremely punishing. Command wheel, company commander, the command wheels, some private lobby fixes there. 8v8, group queue, solo opt-in was pretty popular, and have solo queue as well. Actually, it was resoundingly popular. Whether you lock it or open it up to full 8s. Some spawn point adjustments, match score kickers, secondary lobby balancing. That's actually pretty big for match quality. I think that is quite significant, this one. Faction play itself, conquest tickets. Again, we didn't touch too much on faction plays because PGI or Dayron has suggested that is not going to be the focus in the near early-ish terms, be that a year or apparently I think it was a year or two, so that might get looked at later. Didn't go too deep on that. Events, community interaction, I should say, engagement, all that stuff there. You can all read all that later. Have a look at it. New player experience. Again, fixing shop UI, cadet bonuses, tutorials. Oh, what have I done there? Cadets in tier 3, they should never be there. Things like that. A new player pack. Fixing up the trials. New player training videos. Again, this is about getting players in and retaining them by explaining it to them. That is just massive. So many players come and leave. It's a big thing. Monetization and marketing. Merch, all that sort of stuff. Email, market to your customers, promote them, tell them what's going on, get them back, refer a friend option maybe, mech pack pricing, revisit all of that. That comes down to colors, everything, camos, all sorts of stuff. Like revisit all of the pricing there. I'm not going to spend $20 on a couple of colors or something. No one's going to do that, right? So need to fix that up. New pack options. Have IS packs, clan packs, heavy packs, medium packs. Change up the mech pack so that it's not just a grasshopper pack because you don't need the 3 variants anymore. Change the mech packs up so that they're just tip it on its ass, basically. There's so many, it's a big discussion there. Even a faction play starter pack, cockpit items that give you better bonuses, not a 5% Seabull bonus, 50, 100, whatever. Give them some big bonuses. Give them a reason to buy these cockpit items. Even your favorite content creator items, perhaps for some of the larger, bigger guys. Battle passes. This goes back to the NG podcast from the other day. It was 206. So go watch that if you want to know more about it. There's definitely a deep dive needed on that battle pass suggestion, but it's definitely a way to monetize it for newer players. And again, moving with the times of the way the gaming industry has gone too, 8 years later. Mech mobility, balancing, quirks, HSL, set of 8s, rescale, weapons. We highlight AC20, ER peeps, Jenner arms stuff. It's pee in the ocean in terms of scale. There's a lot more that needs to happen there, but it's a deeper dive later. Oh dear. Okay, let's open chat questions and discussions. Righto, Nutty, you're up. Let's.
So yeah, there's been a lot of conversations.
Fire, yeah, a lot, yeah.
Maybe what I could do is I could maybe start by talking about something that we really didn't talk about in this on this panel, which is maps,
Yep,
game
absolutely.
modes, variety, in-game variety. What can we do? How can we kind of improve the gameplay experience by providing more variety in the game? I mean, we've been essentially playing the same game modes, the same maps for for at least the past when was Rubelite? I think was the last new map to come out. And then they brought in the classics. That's been it's been over a year since anything is anything is shaked up in that regard. So certainly, certainly more maps, certainly more of that. So there's a lot of talk about mega quirks in the chat as to whether that would be a good idea.
Maybe not mega quirks, just fun ones though, like that. It doesn't need to make something stupidly overpowered. Just give it something.
So one of the things I think we should address is that there is a lively discussion in the chat right now around this idea of an MWO cloud thing. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that's probably a failing of having an API that would allow us to extract that. So think the competitive play, right? Think to when we're doing Trials of Combat, we have we could take the match score API, pull, get the match score ID, get the information about matches, all that kind of stuff. There's other games that do something similar. So I come from Dota 2, which is another free-to-play game. They have there's like a third-party site called Dota Buff where you can go to see what your kind of match history is and things of that nature. So I think I can kind of understand where he's coming from. But again, looking at other games that do something similar, is it a good idea to develop it right now? Probably not. I think maybe later on down the road it might be a good idea. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Kind of the general idea of being able to get your own kind of stats in a bit more detail from like a third party site and be able to do.
Well, you can already get it, right? I mean,
you can get some of it. Yeah,
you can't get all of it. Actually, totally somewhat unrelated to that, but in terms of API, the guy from CXF Golly is building a faction play bot, just so that you can update the faction queues in different discords and stuff. If that API came out of the game, that'd be awesome, because then the community could go and build stuff for you. You don't have to do anything. Just give the data out, right? Then the community goes and does it with their own tools and third-party tools. I think that's actually a pretty good way to do it. Like, you give it to the players or the community and let them do the work for you if they're passionate enough, and they will. I mean, I do it in other games. Why not here?
And then that's certainly there probably isn't a kind of fast and easy kind of direct player benefit to that, right? PGI develops they redevelop the API, for example, right? The API that it's been there, it's good for private lobbies to be able to expand it to get access to more information. Certainly for people that want to build those tools, that's going to be really important and really good. But for the average player, I don't think they're going to be as interested in it, right? Like they might, for the more competitive folks, they might want to be interested in it. There could be some value there, but when we're talking about bringing new players into the game, we're talking about trying to
retain them,
encourage existing old players to come back to the game. Like I think we're maybe focusing on the wrong thing when we're talking about something like an MWO cloud, or focusing on like API development. Later on down the road, I think that's actually later on down the road might not be a bad idea, but but at the moment, no. We got to attract players to come back. Monetization, maps,
and fix the reasons why a lot of them left, and potentially get those back. Right? Like there is a lot of I'm not joking. There's a lot of people I know that would happily come back if some of these balance items were looked at, or mech rescales. Like it just destroyed their fun, and they weren't having fun. Like that's it, fun. I mean, geez, I'm going to come back to that word a lot. 3 letters, so simple, right? Like quick wins, fun. People will come back. I know they will. They have told me that I will come back and I will play. And this has got nothing to do with skill and everything to do with, well, they enjoyed playing the game for 5-10 years. They spent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on the game. They're happy to come back. Just give them a reason.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, so that's a big thing. Like a lot of people can come back because I've seen them post. Like we interact with them like often, and like as a continuation. I mean, if PGI wants to like put development resources into the game again, I would say like getting a level designer to basically design new maps. Like a lot of the maps, like yes, those existing ones can go through some fixes, but like in the past, I've seen that every time that they've released a new map, the population comes back to experience like what's the new thing on the board. And like some of these fixes, like these basically balance fixes that or low hanging fruit fixes that they do, they bring some people back, but some people that are like, well, I'm done with MWO. It's all the same, and like new content, like maps, I think would bring some people back, and then that comes down to level design, not map artists, because their maps look cool, like the graphics are good, but level design ties into gameplay, how the flow of the battle on a map goes. Like some maps basically naturally goes into NASCAR because the map features supports like a NASCAR type play. And also another important thing that I think was overlooked, if dev resources is going to come back to MechWarrior Online, performance optimization. That's a big thing. Like just work on like bringing the frame per second in this game up. Like work on some of the aspects of like the particles in this game. For example, I don't know, like people usually like have them on low, but there are some things that are tied to like different levels of particle details that are like the major offenders. But if you turn them off, you turn them off everything else as well along with them that are not really that impactful. So another pass on that would be really good. So that's something that I can think of.
Sure, and to that point, Navid, in the the podcast, I can't remember which number it was, but the one where Russ and Darren and Matt were all on that podcast. It was like 19 minutes in where one of the first things out of that Russ mentioned was, putting the game into a new game engine is on technically on the table, but then he followed up by saying, but just because it's on the table doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. And it would be a better use of development time to instead work on engine optimizations. What can they do to improve the I'll say that the hardware cost of MechWarrior Online in its current iteration, whether or not they could even attempt to go up to a newer version of CryEngine or anything like that. Like, so certainly, like that, it sounds like they're interested and willing to put development
Daron
time
touched on
into
that
it.
engine upgrade the other day, saying that it's being discussed. I mean, whether that it's past that the discussion phase or not, I mean, it's obviously on. Nothing's not. It sounds to me that nothing is not necessarily off the table yet. Everything is, but you go through that again. I've been through it. I did IT like some of you guys. I've been down this road. You put all of it on there, and you knock the things off. Just ain't going to happen because it's cost. All the different metrics that you need to work within.
Yeah.
So, there's a big distinction though between quality and quantity.
I want to try and keep going with the questions and stuff from the chat and ideas and stuff like that, right? Dynamic spawn points. I actually didn't write that in. I've been harping on about this for nearly 2 years. If PGI can do dynamic spawn points on some of the larger maps, take Frozen City for example, is a great idea. Don't all just start in the two opposite corners. You can change up the spawn points a little bit. Then lights have a role to go and scout. It gives them a little bit more reason, a little bit more meaning, a bit more purpose. It can change up the game because it's just not everyone walking to the same 2 squares out of a 50 square map. Even like Polar, change up the spawns a bit so everyone just doesn't run to the bloody center all the time. There's actually a city on the map for God's sake, or a little base. It's just options.
Well, if you have like say spawn set A, spawn set B, spawn set C, you can randomly drop between them.
Yep.
And that means that scouting is important, but also means for competitive play, and something like TSCs and even casual comp, even casual lobbies, you can select spawn set A, spawn set B, spawn set C. Now we're using the same map assets multiple different ways.
Yep. And then gameplay level design. I was going to put down Rubelite. It was good design. again, dynamic spawn points isn't always viable on every map, though. I must touch on that, because some of them are actually not going to be anywhere near balanced depending on where you spawn, so that's an issue. Just trying to look here.
Yeah, I see the new engine thing is that I was gonna say that it's something for them to decide, because what we're discussing right now is the things that can have some meaning, that can some like bring in revenue to PGI in short order. And engine upgrade, like porting into a new engine, would not be among them, because if you go along that way, I don't think anything would come out of it for at least 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
And from the other side of things,
that's just
like
what PGI talk about, right? Like that's again,
Yeah.
that is just what PGI is saying they're looking at. Whether it's viable or not, I mean, we can
on
comment
the
on
other
it. It's
side
them
of
to decide, right? I mean, it's
yeah. I mean,
it's a
on the
big
other
call.
side of thing, like it's from long-term point of view. Like for example, like when they lose the license, porting into a new engine would open like new possibilities, or like guarantee the future of the game, like for years to come. But that's the catch here, like what we are looking at this discussion and what porting into a new engine means.
Yep. So just touching on, again, we don't want to keep moving with some of the questions here.
Yeah.
Supporter packs. Actually, the comp supporter pack, or the World Championship tournament packs in the previous par were always good options. Is there some viable options here, perhaps? I don't know anymore. People will they spend for a supporter pack for a new map when? Well, hang on a minute. Who gets the map? The guys that paid for it, or the guys that didn't? That might bring in some issues there. I'm not sure on that one. It'd be interesting idea. Ideas there. What are they? Some of the questions in the chat here. You seeing anything nutty that I'm missing at the moment?
Not really. I mean, everyone's
there was one.
everyone's really keeping up to the conversation. As
One was and it would come back to mobility, but one was saying clean up the clutter on some maps which stop assaults dead in the tracks. I agree with that. I don't think we mentioned explicitly, but combination of A, mobility pass to help mechs climb over these things, but also B, yeah, some maps it assaults get hung up on like pebbles so often. I think that is something that's a small quality of life thing. So yeah,
I'm going to put invisible walls in there as well. Again, that comes back to
Yeah.
whether PGI are willing to do all that map enhancement or not. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. This is the whole thing, right? I hate it too, but I would rather other things be fixed before an invisible wall that I already know has been there for 5 years. Like,
yeah, map editing is not the lowest of hanging fruits, unfortunately.
So let's put a direct question to the chat.
So-
For those that are in the chat right now that are watching.
Can I stop you one
that
sec? I just want to cover
have-
off one more, if that's quick. Morose has just said about discussing ideas of 3 to 6 months of battle passes. We did actually cover that off with a few ideas. Listen to the NG podcast. I think MDM Mike, whatever that was, 206 or whatever. It was this week. Have a listen to that one, mate. It covers that in a lot better detail, and I don't think there's much point us hashing that again. Go, mate. Sorry.
So for those that are watching that have stopped playing the game, or maybe
Yes,
thinking of stopping
everyone.
playing the game, what would bring you back? What is like the number one thing on your list that would bring you back into the game? I think that's probably the question that the way that we can do this is,
And if you're still playing,
just to ask directly.
no need
what
to
would bring you
reply.
back?
Yeah, if you're still playing, and I can see a lot of the names in the chat here. I know who's playing, who's not. Right? If you're not playing, what would bring you back? Don't just type something in there because if you want something, right? Doesn't matter. Just we're trying to get some
Spider
accurate
Realis
here, right?
Spider Realis is better optimization. Super Realis has more players. Well, that's actually kind of what we're trying to deal with. Stony says Godzilla.
Been busting my
Dead
chops
set
about.
Stoney.
He's been busting my chops about this shit all week. Dead set.
Yeah. So D-Lon talks about bringing PvE into the game. So D-Lon, Piranha Games has been very very clear that MWO is strictly PvP. And MechWarrior 5 is strictly PvE, and they're not going to compete with each other. That was said on a few different occasions. So don't focus so much on trying to get PvE into MechWarrior Online, because quite frankly, there's another game for that that they do develop.
Yep. Can't disagree with that.
Yeah, and everyone's like, a lot of people saying a bigger population. I mean, absolutely, that's kind of why we're here. We're here to try to build the population, or at least to at least maintain what we've got.
Convince the wife it's not a waste of time. Well, look, mate, what goes on in your house is your business, right? I'm not getting involved in that stuff. Oh, jeez. I'll write her a nice letter, man. If you want a letter, send me a message. I'll write up a nice letter. I'll put a couple of logos on there, some pictures of some mechs and stuff, and then I'll take a photo of my chin. But she may well leave your housemate. That you're going to want to be careful. You go down these roads. Anything else? I'm still looking here.
There's streaming shirtless, which we've certainly talked about
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some things like skill tree. Skill tree is the big thing, and I agree with that.
Advertising coyote. Yeah, I mean that's all in the marketing stuff above. There's just so many ways to market, man. Like I said, they need to more touch on Facebook's, Twitter's, linking to all the socials. They need to do it all at once and do it regular. That is what advertising and marketing is, and should be. I mean, is PGI going to throw fucking 50 G's behind a YouTube ad or something? I mean, I don't know. They might. That comes back to PGI finances, I guess, to work out where they put their budget. It's a bit hard for us to know. I mean, we don't know that, right? So that's a tough one. Yeah. From what I've heard from Dayron there, he's talking about that too. Like that is definitely, how do they advertise is definitely a discussion going on at the headquarters for sure.
So there's a few points for around NASCAR. That's certainly a map design issue. Right, that maybe the existing maps just need to be redesigned to essentially counter the NASCAR that folks end up getting themselves into. Right, some of the best maps that are out there don't really have a NASCAR route that you're used to. Right, it's not like Polar Highlands and Domination mode where everyone just runs around the dish. You see things like Rubelite, which NASCAR is there, but it's a bit harder to achieve. But I can certainly see is from that aspect, from frustrating gameplay, that NASCAR is annoying.
AV8 would potentially best quite a bit of that too. Oddly enough, that is a pretty deep discussion in another way, I guess. It is. Too.
Yeah. I mean,
the only thing that's keeping me active is the players I've been playing with for years. Again, this is what I mean, though, right? Like, it is about community and building that and units, and there's a lot of focus on how do you get the new players involved in that community, right? Like, you build a community, people stay. I'm still here. Like, I still talk to people that I used to play with, and sometimes they still come back and they still drop every now and again with me. Not always, but sometimes, we just go, hey, we're going to do a Mech Warrior night tonight. All right, we'll come back for a couple of games, and why not, right? It's still... The community's still there. It doesn't necessarily leave. You can bring it back.
There's a few calls out there for a Bitch and Ash sound pack.
Really? Do people really want that?
To be honest,
if you want me to record some stuff, I'll do it, right?
So Val brings up a good point, and I know Alchem was mentioning this earlier. Colorblind mode, or at the very least, the ability to adjust your HUD colors in the game to support people that might have color vision deficiencies. Right, kind of similar to what you did with your Reloaded mod in Mech 5, or not Reloaded, sorry, with your HUD mod, where you can just change the complete color of the HUD as opposed to being locked into one color for clan, one color for inner sphere. Let people have that kind of choice. I don't know how simple it is, but
it is simple. I know it is simple. I've seen it done. I'm not gonna say how, but I know it's simple, and it is. Yeah.
And on the colorblind stuff, the missile bay door indicator light, lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Oh
right,
my goodness! It is yellowy green
Oh,
or greeny yellow.
My
yellowy
God!
green to
Yes.
greeny yellow.
Maybe I'm insane. I don't claim to play PGI's builds, but it would be great to have a circular map with the ramps. Only chose. Is that a troll?
It's Canyon.
Yeah, that's Canyon Network.
And Hibernal. And technically HPG. Anyway.
Anything else? I'm just sort of looking. But yeah, missile bay door light, man. Oh my! The amount of times I have to ask my teammates, "Are my doors open or not?" Because I can't see the damn light. Where is it?
Every time.
I have to zoom in. I have to use Ash Vision. Like you guys see that on the chat there now. I was like, wow, I have to go all the way.
You have to turn it off to go red, and then hit it one more time.
Yeah.
No. There's
Check
there's
box.
another
Actually,
catch.
really annoying, dude. I hate it.
Dude, there's another
Filthy
catch
leather.
to it. It's like if you don't remember to open the bay doors, and then go into the match and launch a
once.
missile launch a missile, there's a delay, and that delay is for the animation to open the doors, and then after you fired it, close the doors, and then you can open the missile doors. And it's like, okay, so is it right? Is it okay then?
Yeah, you have to wait
And
for
by
them to
that-
close. Oh, it gives me the shits.
Yeah, and by that time you
Oh.
were already firing at something, and the target is gone. It's like that's another thing. That's another thing, and the other thing is that the delay, that damn delay, it's so bad. Like
Just moving
on-
on quickly, just want to keep going with the questions. So we just had a comment here, Inkstained Axmed. People I've talked to don't want to come back because of NASCAR and Russ. He's not a good communication. And you know what? I couldn't disagree with that, but I think that's Daron's role, though. And the point of him being appointed is now to address and resolve some of that, mate. So, and look,
Yep.
I've met Daron in person. I have had extended conversations with him many times. If he says it and Matt's behind it as well, I mean, that could be good. I mean, maybe this is a little bit of a turning point. I know there is a lot of burnt people out there that are very, very wary, I guess. And you know what? That's fair enough. I mean, can't disagree. I mean, that's what it is. But it's either you're on board and you want to see it get better, and you can look at the positive side of it, or you don't. And well, if you want to be like that, cool. That's your choice. But I mean, the only way PGI are going to change it is by doing it and showing it. So I think the next 3 months or to 6 is going to be that. See the communication. Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Are they going to start doing all these emails, these balance passes, and start looking at things, and even just communicate out and do again, like I said, PGI HQ update once a month. What are we working on? What's coming? Again, all these things take time. It's not going to happen overnight at all. Not by any means. Select servers, Pete. Yeah, I think that's a bug. You'll have to send an email through to PGI on that one. Again, that's just the region select server is just a bug, man. I have the same problem. It's just the Oceanic server disappears randomly. I don't know why it does. It's just always done it. Maybe it actually goes down. I don't know. It's a separate thing.
It's
so one person says thoughts on incentivizing team play.
Yeah, I was just getting to that.
That's
I'm just catching up with the
Great
chat.
minds.
Yeah, yep.
While you're talking about it, I got to run and get some water, so I'll be right back.
Well, how do you do that? Oh, that's a good question. How do you incentivize team play? I truly don't know. I mean, it's very, very hard in a free-to-play game when there's
what quantifies team play. That's the question, and it's very hard to single it out
also
and
true,
incentivize it until you can quantify it. Now, winning the match is the biggest one.
Yep.
Like the winning match is the biggest one, and that's kind of why there's big match to go kickers for AMS and ECMs and spottings and that. I mean, I'm okay with that. It kind of is there already. You get a lot more C-bills and a light that does X amount of damage. So, yeah.
Just in return knockdowns, that's not going to happen. It's just an abusable mechanic. PGI removed it for a very good reason. So definitely not on the cards. That goes into free for all, which PGI said ain't coming either. So, yeah, knockdowns. That's for BattleTech. Certainly, and there are games that deal with that too,
knockdowns has technical problems. It's like it's not as easy as just.
It was tough with Australians. Oh my goodness, knockdowns with Aussies. As someone who played in beta as an Aussie, please no, please help me no.
I mean, I can't explain it, but I won't because time.
I'm just looking. Talk about PvE putting better work. Yeah, look, Soul Arcan, and as we said earlier, PGI said that PvE is not happening in MechWarrior Online. So they've said it's not happening. There's really no point discussing it. I mean, that's just a fact, man. Like you can't
scope.
It's out of scope. You can't have that discussion when they're not going to entertain it. And I kind of feel like that's very actually kind of pointless for us to talk about it too, really.
Myriad did just mention something. Maybe a focus fire reward for shooting a target other teams are shooting at. Bigger rewards the more people are shooting at it.
Part of the match score kicker or something.
Match score kicker? Oh, okay.
Match score kicker based
teamwork,
off how
match
many...
score kickers. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So I mean,
okay.
we've already got like spotting assist
Yeah.
because savior kills already exist.
Yeah.
So
I also
so
see-
Magic Pink Blood's like,
Yeah, that's a good one.
go ahead. Sorry.
No,
That's
no,
actually
go
a really
ahead,
good
go ahead.
idea, actually. Yeah, yeah. Again, how do you encourage teamwork, right? That's one way. I'm really struggling to think of other ways.
Yeah, I kind of want to bring up what Magic Paint Gloves that they're saying. So you to say it one more time. Both games being on Unreal 4 will greatly benefit both games. Instead of having two guys working on MWO, you have an interchangeable, larger development team that can work on both games. I think we get that. The problem is just the development time needed to get the game into Unreal 4, and they talked about it on the podcast of saying that the biggest piece of the development is all the server, the client server pieces that go into the back end of it. It's the game is designed around co-op. It's not designed around
The architecture,
any kind
dude.
of client
It's the
server.
back end server architecture and linking all that.
Yeah.
And I get it. And MPG, man. Look, we can all say it blue in the face that we all want an engine upgrade, right? That would be amazing. But and MPG, I've said that they will look at it. It's again, it comes back to finances. They, PGI at the end of the day ultimately decide this. As much as we might want it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% love it if they do an engine upgrade, but you have to accept reality that if they want to go that route, it's going to be radio silence for a couple of years.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's
you're not going to get nothing, right? You're not going to get shit in that time because that's all hands on deck, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we would have MechWarrior Online in its current state for
a while,
2+ years while they develop it. And on top of that, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get the entire game that we're
exactly
used to
as it is
currently. Certainly, like they probably take out Solaris for now, which is fine. I think that Solaris kind of is a bit of a didn't land very well with the way that it was brought out.
We've got an option here for just a pilot skill tree instead of a mech skill tree. I think that's it's an interesting idea, but I mean, when you've got mechs the game is built around mechs, not the character.
Yep.
The character is more a MechWarrior 5 thing. I think at least like it's more of a.
You have.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with it is otherwise, let's say I go from a Janitor to a Stalker, I go fiddle with my part skill tree every single match and during a lobby. It's not a thing. The mech skill tree incorporates what the part skill tree would have for that mech.
Yeah, in the mech, pilot and the mech are the same. I mean, if this game had AI teammates,
sure,
maybe that would have made sense. But no, it's all human players, and basically the mech is the pilot.
Yeah, HBS BattleTech, very different game, single player, PvE. That's why you have different pilot stuff is all you need like that. That makes sense for HBS BattleTech.
Comment here. Assaults can bend down. That's being discussed. I assure you, being very strongly discussed. I'll put it that way. It's a very strong discussion going on from a few people about that. I'm staying out of it for now because I'm trying to focus on this. But I'll get my teeth stuck into that one next week. Rebalance rewards away from the individual performance and get towards winning. Yep. I guess that comes into match score, kickers. You don't want to punish the losing team anymore, but you want to incentivize the winning team. Like I think the losing team now gets enough, but you want to maybe incentivize the winners more. Taro, that's probably the point there. I think if I'm reading that rightly. Well, PGI did remove it in knockdowns, but at the same time, it's still a terribly bad mechanic for the game. It's fun,
I mean,
yes, but it just has much more issues, mate.
Yeah, in that regard, like I saw him like post that people trolled Paul and they removed it because of that. No, it has like giant flaws, like mathematical flaws with client to server communication. Like you cannot. It basically comes down to a ragdoll simulation between client
hitboxes, mechs, how
and
do you
server.
damage?
Yeah. I mean, of course, like MechWarrior 4 and MechWarrior 3 had those in that. And they went like a different approach for that, but yeah.
Could you imagine HSR, right? Trying to work on a mech getting up with hitboxes and trying to hit reg it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like physics.
It'd be a problem.
Like physics simulation cannot be replicated exactly on a server and a client without like constant like syncing between the two. Like there is performance issues and there's like numerical error issues between the two. So there's
looking at one from Rage Dog here. more rewards for scouting and bits and pieces. Yeah, that comes up earlier in the document on match core kickers. They need adjustments. There's definitely things to be improved there. And it's not just, nuking AMS's bonuses that it gives. There are other things, little scouting bonuses and things like that. Definitely, there's little buffs and tweaks that need to happen in that match core kicker thing to encourage a little bit more of that. But yeah, that's earlier in the document. Definitely going to be covered for sure.
There's some other ones here. Sol can ask about monetization around pods, like choosing pilot voice packs or portraits to use in game. A little bit of extra customization, like sounds, I guess. Pete mentions increasing supply cache value by a lot. So
supply cache revamp,
something we haven't discussed yet.
Yep, actually, that's a really good one.
Yeah, because the system, they've changed the system a few times, and like I've opened 700 supply caches and never gotten the mech. So.
Well, the mechs aren't in the supply caches anymore.
No, I meant the old ones. I mean, of the ones that could have mechs, yeah.
Yeah. So. Also, some small thing that comes to my mind is that, do you remember that like all the mech packs of the past, like currently, like with the events, player gets badges, like you can select your badge in the game. That all those badges looks like little like 10 by 10 pixel like smudges on the score screen. Like there's no way you can see any of those badges, or actually like kind of, I don't know if players can like basically have some sort of like player card or like a profile with those things up. That would be fine.
Just had a comment here. D-Lawn, EMP artillery shut down all the mechs. If you remember back to long time, if you ever played faction play, it's almost a little less intrusive. Long Tom, and Long Tom I think was one of the biggest population killers in the entire game. So I don't think an EMP. I don't think anyone else agrees, but I do not think EMP to shut down the enemy mechs is in any way a good mechanic to bring into this game.
It's not fun. It's silly. It makes
arbitrary RNG almost nuke that you don't know is coming. Airstrikes are bad enough. Yeah. Don't get me started on airstrikes, guys.
Strikes are bad enough, yeah.
Anyone see my shoutcast? Say no to the strikes. They do not like these things.
No, I remember the games we casted. It was like, no, what was it, like 5 deaths to strikes?
3 matches, mate, were decided by airstrikes. 3 matches. The outcome was decided by basically RNGs. That's not, you can't. No. Actually, funnily enough, strikes. I'm sure they don't know about the chat, but strikes are definitely on the cards to be looked at and addressed because they're too much. That's definitely being discussed as well. Nerf a little bit.
So Morosis has kind of an interesting kind of part of what he said there. Have we discussed a periodically shifting meta, seasons tied to battle pass or community source map ideas? And I know we talked about the seasons and battle pass stuff already, but I'm interested in the idea of a shifting meta, right? There are other games that are out there where they'll do like one major pass a year or one major pass over every 2 years, where it makes a significant change to the game, where it makes it more exciting, more interesting. You have to play mechs in a different way. What about things like that? I mean, I know it kind of steps away from the lore values a little bit. I realize MechWarrior Online is kind of really very light on lore on purpose because it doesn't really translate into a first-person shooter. But
I've got a good one for you, right?
For shifting meta.
I've got a good one, right? So say you shift the meta around, right? For this 3 months, DAC is good, but you like to play lasers and missiles. What then? So what? For 3 months, the weapon system you like is just kind of shit. Like, what do you? Or the next month it's overpowered and everyone shifts to running. And the impact onward impact of this is everyone needs to go and then change builds, right? They don't have to, but if they want to follow the OP weapon of the month, they're going to have to change it, right? And then that has impacts for, again, new players, users, shifting balance. How do you learn the game if, on a 2 or 3 month dime, it changes and you've got to go and science it all out? That it then has onflows into wiki issues. Like, you got to keep updating all this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I see. Yeah,
I think it's a challenge.
Like, I see suggestions that like smoke screens as consumables. If PGI can put something up that can't be mitigated by going ultra low detail through user CFG, or I don't know, doesn't introduce like FPS issues, that can be a cool idea. But yeah.
I think that doing core stuff well is important. So like shifting meta around is not an idea when you can just have a good, fun. Every weapon has its place. Every mech has its quirks and mobility and scales to have its place. So if everything's fun and usable, you don't need to shift the meta around to make it spicy. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you want the default state to be fun, then that's good enough. I mean, I see a lot of things asking about like adding RO4s or light ACs or other things about adding equipment. We had the Civil War patch, which brought a lot of players back, adding more tech.
It did,
The thing
actually.
is, though, you only really do that once or twice. We had June 2014 was Clan Drop. 2017 was the Civil War drop. So it's 3 years on, we're almost due for another one. But here's the thing, though: every time you add a lot of tech, you add a lot of variables to the game, and you can only do them like once every 3 years. So if it was to happen again, you want all of the other quality of life stuff to go well, new play experience, absolutely smick, because you only really get these big influxes of players, these big patch content releases, once every few years. Does that make sense? Like, I think the next timeline to go would be what, Jihad era stuff, or like, yeah, and that's when it gets really weird.
Yeah, there's some weapons and equipments that are from that era. There are some good ones, but there
Like
are
light
some yeah, I mean there are some good ones like hypervelocity ACs, or I mean hypervelocity ACs, like if something doesn't go fast, like it's not useful, but again it might step on normal AC's toes.
Just give it
somehow,
high
but
heat, west cooldown or something, just play with it.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like there are some good options, but there are also some like kind of weird, wacky stuff in Jihad era. So I 100% agree. Like a tech jump could bring a lot of people back.
You gotta get everything else ready for it. You gotta get like new play experience, your wikis, everything.
Yep.
Like, I think the thing is, like I said, if the base quirks and scale and stuff, the spawns are good, the matchmaker, you got 8v8 happening again. You get a game that's fun. Just by existing, it's fun in a default state. When you do the big content drops, which take more time, any new player that comes into a good game that's enjoyable and good to stay with. Because right now, let's say right today they dropped a new map and some new tech. Players will come in, they'll play it, try it out, but the stuff that we've mentioned for the last few hours hasn't been addressed. Their retention of that and the ability to spend money is not going to be there as well.
Yeah, I also see like
we've kind of done now. Just want to move on to maybe map voting. It seems to be pretty split among the community. Like, should it be RNG? Should it be voted? I mean, it seems to be there's a lot of both camps kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like everyone, there's this
map voting. I mean, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is literally you like load up a mech for each like map or whatever. You have like a preset of mechs, and then you can pick. If you're on a long range map, pick a long range map. If you're on a short or a mech, if you have a short range map, pick the short range mech that you have loaded up. I don't know, 3-4 mechs for the 3-4 maps you get to vote from. Don't change the voting, just allow you to pre-select mechs, pre-ready up mechs. That would solve so many issues of like, people having LRM boats on Slayer City or brawlers on Polar, stuff like that. Like, I think it would vastly improve match quality, personally.
So I'm seeing notes to put like ads in game and stuff. I don't know. Personally, if I had to see lots of ads in the game, I'd stop flat out. Like, I would not play a game with ads. Even though it's free to play, I just wouldn't. You guys?
Yeah.
Yes, no. Pretty simple, right? Yes or no? Would you play a game with ads in it?
Ads? No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put that down. So map voting.
Ads of what specifically?
Oh, fuck if I know, mate. Ads. I don't know.
I think that'd be. I don't know. I think that'd just depend. But yeah, anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. But
it's not a free-to-play mobile game, you know what I mean? What you want to watch?
Yeah, it's not a mobile game.
Yes, we have phones. No, we don't want to play there. Yeah. So I think we're getting to a point now where we're kind of covering the same topics, kind of a bit, kind of over and over again. I mean, does it sound like we kind of have everything down pat as far as what we're?
I'm looking at the chat here. I'm not seeing a hell of a lot more that we've sort of covered. Oh, there's reactive armor in the chat there. That would be an entire tech update, though. I'm not sure if PGI are going down that road yet, unfortunately. I mean, look, if there was a tech update, it'd be sick. But is it happening or not? I think they've got to deal with a lot of other stuff first. They may go down that track in a year or two. Perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a tech update's a great thing, and package all that stuff into that.
Yep.
But you got to get everything else done first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Stefan says, can we document the colorblind? Well, either
So
colorblind
Mac,
mode
I've just
or
wrote it
even
down.
just-
Map contest, develop content, get the community engagement. If they had a map contest every X number of months, and the winners map concept could be taken by the artist to build the next map, absolutely possible. PGI put that map contest, making maps. It comes back to, I guess, up the top. I put new maps up here as well. PGI are gonna have to make that call, man. Are they gonna put new maps in or not? I mean, they say it takes 200,000. Whether it does or it's not has been debated hotly for many years. They're just gonna have to work it out. So
I mean, there's one thing.
I'm not against new maps,
yes,
by the way.
You can,
I'd love new maps.
yeah,
Love it.
you can download like CryEngineKit and start like creating maps. Like it might look simple on the surface. However, you have to think about, all right, so PGI is using like shared assets on many of the maps. Like, do you want access to PGI assets? Like, how does that gonna work? And then there's like they have their own like algorithms that run on each map, like that are tied to functions. Like you can create the mesh, of course, the terrain mesh, but there's a lot more going into that. I know that there's a lot more. Of course, it can be done. Like players can create like a mesh, create the art assets, but that's another aspect. It's not just like, yeah, it's super easy. It can be done like in 2 weeks. No.
Yeah, I'm just going through any last questions. I want to kind of wrap this up. I will flick you over to RJ's stream after this. He's actually doing a breast cancer fundraiser. I'm going to go grab some quick food and I'll stream as well later. So if you want to come and have a more informal chat about things later, you're more than welcome to in about 15-20. But is there any other questions you guys are seeing in the chats here? I'm looking, not seeing a lot of it.
There's just a lot of rehash of
a lot of the stuff we've already covered.
Which
I
is
think
good,
it's
which is actually
well covered.
a good sign.
Which is actually
Yeah,
good when a
it's-
lot of stuff is covered. You know that you're on the right path, right? Like that is the common themes. Then that's what you want.
Yeah, new mechs. I think I don't know if we wrote that down, but I mean new mechs are always
New
good,
mechs,
but
yeah.
it's-
If the new mech pack came out, if it was, I'd be interested in it. I'd buy it, right?
Or, or new variants for existing mechs. They got the models and everything done for it. All the texturing done for that too. You don't have to retexture an existing variant.
That's already.
No,
Yep. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, I'll put that down too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cover buckets. So less Coyote, less buckets. We covered it earlier. We're around like having an event queue, like separating people out. Like the event queue is a good idea, but again, you don't want to have just something just specific to separate more of the player base out than it already is.
Unless you have multi-queue select drop-down built into the UI.
Multi-queue.
You're going to have to work that out, right? Multi-queue selection and things like that. They're going to have to work that out. Again, it comes back to... And all of this, in summary, does... Probably actually a pretty good point to summarize it out now. I think we're pretty much there. Just a quick chat.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job.
The final thing is Urban Mech 2C.
The Mech 2C.
Stalker 2C first.
No, I want the Yeoman. Give me the Yeoman.
So
the Yeoman, the LRM launcher with legs.
I guess to summarize all this out, we've covered a lot of topics. I'm going to be very interested to hear the PGI feedback on this. The document, I will retype it in the next couple of days, make a pile of changes. I'm going to rewatch the stream probably 2 or 3 times. I even like my casts, so I always go back and watch them just to work out anything that I missed. So we will update the document. All the other guys here got access to it. We'll go through it, clean it up, and then, we'll host it on Reddit or whatever. I'll also give it to Dayron as well, whether he sticks it on the forum or not, I don't know. Hopefully he does, because, we've had like nearly 250, 300 people watching and commenting and stuff in the last 3 hours, which is amazing. But all of this comes back to PGI. Can't they do it? They need to go away and put all these ideas on the table. I'm sure they've got some of their own ideas as well that they're working on. Everything, like we've said, from engine updates to all manner of other things. really the big one. A lot of it is balancing 8v8 and monetization and advertising to your new player experience. There's a lot around that. A lot of new players do come through this game and they leave, and keeping them there is the most important, and keeping that money then flowing through and the value adds without spending too much more money on these other things too. So you want these quick wins, do them where they can. Unless anyone's got anything else, that kind of rounds out where we're at.
I think so.
No, that's pretty good for me. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are in the world. And more importantly, thank you for helping to keep the discussion civil and forward thinking. Also, thanks everybody on the panel for the same thing. You know, we're all kind of fighting for that same, you know, to that same common goal of having a better Mech Warrior Online. And certainly keep the conversation going. Don't stop the conversation. There's a lot of people reaching out to Darren directly. You know, there's discussions in the MWO forums, there's discussions in Discord, there's discussions on Reddit, on Twitter, all those things. Do what you can to continue those discussions, and get that feedback back to Darren, so they can help make the best decisions possible with the information that we give them, and just tempered expectations, right? Just because
be realistic, yeah.
All
like
these things.
Some of the stuff we covered off earlier, like battle value and free for all. There's stuff that's just it's not viable. It's not going to work in the game, and PJ aren't going to look at it anyway. So, you know, and well, basically don't jump up and down about it. There has to be some sensibility here and some realistic expectations about the outcome. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me in. Holy shit, this has been a crazy stream. I'm going to send you over to RJ Base's channel. So I'll say goodbye to all you guys there in the panel. Mr. Nutty, Mr. Jay-Z, and some Bearclaw in the background, some Bowser, Mr. Navid. Guys, thank you very much, and thank you to the chat. It's been absolutely dead set amazing. Cannot thank you guys
Absolutely
enough.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day. See you all later, chat, and I'll send you off to Mr. RJ. Thank you very much. Keep the conversation going. See you later. Bye-bye.